Way, St. Patty's Day is here. St. Madness Day at 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hutton Withrow, Brandon Wright, former Tar Heel. He'll join us in about 20 minutes. He'll be in studio with us. 12-year NBA career, and we'll dive into the NCAA tournament. Trey Wallace is covering what was a great game to open the slate of games in Greensboro for Outkick, where Kennesaw State fell to Xavier. But Xavier came back. Kennesaw State was up big in the second half, and Xavier comes back to win this game 72-67 in a nail-biter to begin the day, as well as Michigan State's victory by 10 over USC. We'll recap all of that throughout today's show. John McClain with us live in Las Vegas, his annual trek to Nevada for the opening round of the tournament. He'll join us in the second hour as well. Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Hutton. Fired up. Survive and advance. The name of the game. Ask Virginia. Ask Arizona if they'd rather trade spots with Tennessee or with Xavier today. It's all about finding a way to win. It's not easy in this tournament. Teams come ready to play. Kennesaw State was very impressive.
We were very close to having another Cinderella in the round of 32.
They're up 13 in the second half.
To join Princeton and Furman from yesterday's games. It's been a great start to the tournament, Chad.
It's been a lot of fun. Yesterday, the day session led to those two huge upsets that everyone's talking about. Night session was a bit of a dud, I think, outside of Northwestern Boise State, which was good. Tennessee, Louisiana got good in the last 10 minutes, but was a blowout for much of that game with Tennessee surviving. But once again, we're off to a good start. Entertaining game between Michigan State, USC, near upset Kennesaw State, Xavier. We got two really close games, maybe another possible upset happening with the Baylor Bears also.
Maybe so.
Plenty to get to today.
Yeah, we've got three scores in progress. Davey Hudson over next to our scoreboard area here in the studio. He's got the latest for us.
Thanks. Yeah, right now, UC Santa Barbara, they are trailing by 7 to Baylor. Baylor up 58-51 with a little under 10 minutes left to go in the second half. And we currently have a game at the half. St. Mary's up 29-28 over VCU. And then the other game that's about 5 minutes in, we got the second-ranked Marquette Golden Eagles over 9-5 over the Vermont Catamounts.
Yeah, and they were going back and forth early in that. Marquette.
My Catamounts.
Yes, the Catamounts.
I actually own a Vermont T-shirt, and I went to see a buddy who lived in Boston. Gosh, it's probably 11 years ago at this point, and took a drive up to Vermont and went to Burlington, site of the University of Vermont,
and
the Catamounts. And I said, you know what I'm going to do here? A, I'm going to buy a parka because I'm at the coat factory. And B, I'm going to buy a Vermont Catamounts T-shirt. And that thing is ragged. It's worn. I should have wore it today, but instead I'm supporting Joe Kinsey here in my Mow Like a Champion shirt. You can buy Outkick.com. Very affordable.
Thursday Night Mowing League.
Great T-shirt. I am a member of the Thursday Night Mowing League, so I proudly support and I proudly celebrate. But I bought a Vermont shirt years ago. Should have wore it today. I am, in spirit, a part of that Vermont program today, Hutton.
Kennesaw State, again, they led big in the second half. Xavier comes back to win and tie it. They led with about 5 minutes into the first half, Xavier, and then took the lead again with around 5 minutes to go in the second half, and what was a great finish. The next game up in Greensboro is Pitt taking on Iowa State. That game scheduled to tip off in roughly 12 minutes, and then in about an hour, NC State and Creighton. Chad, it delivered yesterday. We had the drama of the tournament, and Princeton, their first tournament victory since 1998. I love how these storylines play out. Mitch Henderson, the head coach, was on that team, and the script writes itself, really. This is the 11th time that a 15 seed has beaten a 2, but we have seen this happen now for 3 consecutive years. And I think this is becoming more of the norm in college basketball. The season that we saw this year with all of the movement in the top 25, but also when you start to look at some of the schedules and, a solid team down the road here in Belmont who is in a conference, a one-bid league, possibly 2, but everyone beats everyone. So they don't end up getting more than their bid from the conference tournament. It's a crazy season. And case in point, all of the arguments I was trying to make for Texas A&M being a 7 seed, Penn State wiped them yesterday. There's not much of an argument now about the Aggies and where they were put in this tournament.
It's incredible because every year this is a great reminder that there's so many good players across the country. And everyone that's in this tournament, it's 68 out of 370 or whatever the number is now that make it. So of those 68 teams, everyone's got good players. Whether you're a 16 seed, whether you're a 15 seed like Princeton, everyone has good players. I walk outside the studio yesterday here at 6 and Peabody, and I watch with some of the bartenders and people here, everyone gathered around a big television watching Princeton finish off Arizona. And I'm watching this moment, and I'm thinking, man, I'm witnessing history here. And then in the back of my mind, I think, I remember as a kid watching Pete Carrill coach Princeton to a win over UCLA. And I think that was a 15-over-2 also. Went back and looked it up. No, it was a 13-over-4. And here's what I mean by that confusion. Every single year in the first round, whether it be Thursday or Friday, often both, we have these big moments of memory that clouds our judgment from year to year because it happens over and over and over again. This is the single best sporting event in America. I will argue that to the death. Now, I'm cheating also because it's a month-long spectacle. There are 68 teams, single elimination, many rounds, 3 weekends we're talking about. It's the best thing going from a one sporting event standpoint. But watching Princeton celebrate yesterday, the water bottle celebration, I'm just reminded of so many moments like that in years past. And I'm thinking to myself, this is awesome. This is what this is all about when you don't have a dog in the hunt. Now, if you're an Arizona fan, other end of it, you know, you've got
like President Biden.
You got a player.
He's out.
Yeah. If you've got him
Bracket
on your
busted.
If you're President Biden, you put him on the champion line, you're really out on what happened yesterday. But guys, you know, not wanting the camera to capture their reaction after the game. It's both sides of that I just find great about this whole thing. And every year it delivers. Hutton, we're out here today getting ready for the show, watching Xavier get pushed to the limit by Kennesaw State. The Kennesaw State crowd reaction, the coach, it's just incredible drama every single year, and it always delivers.
It's perfect. Our bets delivered, at least from a winning standpoint. If you followed us yesterday as we bet the board, we were on the plus side of the money. I went 4-4. Chad, you were 2 games above 500. So
5-3. So we went 9-7.
Yeah,
betting every game.
Let's do it again today. We're trying to do that again today.
I think we're at 1-1 right now to
start
the day.
Yeah, because we had USC plus 2.5. I also took Kennesaw State plus the points. Nearly won the game, but we had 12.5 there. We have the over 142.5 with Baylor and UC Santa Barbara. St. Mary's, we're laying 4 points there, and that game also underway. So St. Mary's favored by 4. Marquette minus 10.5. Pittsburgh money line. NC State money line, and Iona. I'm riding with Patino. Iona at plus 8.5 later today as they take on UConn. What do you think of the early slate of games?
I like it. I picked Michigan State in my bracket, so I know that one didn't hit. But what we have here is a chance to win again. What we also have is a chance at public humiliation, which we're open to. We put all of our bets out there for you to see. And if it's really bad, you'll know about it, and you'll let us hear about it.
I'll come to it. But you can go to outkick.com/bet to follow us.
Let me also say if you're complaining about our 9-7 record yesterday, GTFO. Because experienced gamblers that do this for a living would love to go 9-7. That would be winning gambling at all times. So successful first day. Let's ride it out today and have an even better record.
Chad, Fairleigh Dickinson, you're taking them 22.5. Is what we're getting here on the Fairleigh Dickinson line of this matchup. And Kentucky that tips later today, minus 4.5. You like Kentucky going into the tournament more than I do. I'm following your lead here.
Kentucky is a tough one only because they can beat anyone. We'll talk to Brandon Wright here in a little bit about that Kentucky team. They've got the talent to beat anyone in this tournament. They also have the inconsistency to lose by 20 tonight to Providence. I don't think either would totally surprise me. I'm going to bet on talent, though, that team has. I think they put it together. I like them against Providence. Outside of Bryson Hopkins, I don't think Providence has much that they're going to contend with Kentucky. So I love the Wildcats in that one. Drake is a 12 seed that I picked going into it. We got a buddy we have a Missouri Valley Conference connection who told us to bet on Drake, whoever they play.
Yeah, no matter
what.
We
did that. We took Drake money line. Under Grand Canyon, Gonzaga, this is the biggest over-under of the day that I could find going into it. Oftentimes, tournament games tend to go under when you have a huge over-under. So for that reason, I'm going under in that game. Both teams can score it, though. I really like Memphis coming in this tournament. What they did to Houston, I understand Houston's shorthanded, but I like Memphis over a team in Florida Atlantic that lost 3 games all year. That's right. 3 games all year they lost. That's it. I'm going Kansas State to win between 11 and 15 points. This is the most outlandish of the day. I think I got the actual odds wrong on that one, but just roll with it. It's going to be in your favor. Kansas State to win by 11 to 15 points against Montana State. Indiana, 4.5 against Kent State. Hutton, that blew my mind when I saw that line. I know Kent State's good, and the MAC was pretty good this year, and that Kent State played single-digit games against Gonzaga and some other really good teams.
Dockets thinks they're a chance for a Cinderella here.
I think Indiana, and look, I'm also clouded by my bracket. I've got Indiana in the Final Four. I think the Hoosiers roll tonight. I think they win by double digits. I think they easily clear that 4.5. Give me the Hoosiers in that one. And let's go Arizona State. They're coming off a game where they played, as Bobby Hurley said, the best half of basketball they've played this season against Nevada. They win that game easily. They're riding some momentum 2 days later. TCU hasn't played. They're not as, they have not played as quickly back-to-back as Arizona State. I'm riding Arizona State and the Sun Devils with that momentum on the money line.
Chad, the story that just continues to develop with the Alabama Crimson Tide and Brandon Miller is now with the New York Times, where Billy Witz, the reporter, is boots on the ground in Birmingham. Glenn Guilbeau caught up with him, and he has maintained his story that Kai Spears was in the passenger seat with Brandon Miller on January 15th, the morning of January 15th, when Miller brought back the weapon that was used in the murder, and has now had two men, one former Bama player charged with capital murder in this, while Miller continues to play. Kai Spears is one of 4 different entities involved with Alabama that that have totally denied this. And from the stance of Spears, his father, the university, and with the lawyer that's involved as well that's representing Spears in this case. But last night around, early this morning, 12:30 a.m., email comes through where the New York Times, they back the reporting. And they say that they are comfortable with what Witz is reporting here based on his sources that remain anonymous but are familiar with this case. Everyone with Bama is denying it, to the point where the statement from the university and from the athletic department said that not only was Spears not there, they can prove it. We haven't seen that yet. And no other student athlete was at the scene. That is as definitive as you get. But the New York Times continues to back the report that Kai Spears, the walk-on, was with Miller the night that he brought the weapon back and gave it to the one of the 2 that were charged with the murder, Miles.
You've got Alabama in one corner, and in that corner, you've got the athletic director at Marshall also backing them.
Who's the father of Spears?
Father of Spears. You've got the New York Times and this reporter in the other corner. Both sides are dug in. Both sides are saying they're right. New York Times, they're reporting. Alabama and the kid's dad, who's the AD at Marshall, saying they're right. It's really a stretch if you know that the kid was there and you're going to lie to this level. So I have a hard time believing that Alabama and they are lying about this. I also have a hard time believing that the New York Times doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Here's the key piece to this. There is an unnamed passenger in that car. If Alabama is so vehement about being right on this, produce who the passenger was. Leak it. Someone. There are other media outlets out there that can report on this story. Someone get that story. Find out definitively who it was. You don't have to name the person if there's some sort of protection going on because of a witness, but you can report, we have it under authority, there was someone in the car, it was not Kai Spears. And we have proof of it, whether it be through law enforcement, the university, someone. So that's the missing link here. Unnamed person, New York Times is saying it was Kai Spears, the walk-on freshman. If it's not, to me now it's on Alabama or on someone on the other side to produce who it was. Instead of just this standoff where it's he wasn't there, absolutely. New York Times, he was there, absolutely. We stand by our reporting.
And they're backing the report, both the writer and the outlet backing the report, despite 4 different entities with Alabama denying this story. And again, Billy Witz is there in Birmingham. So was Glenn Gilbo. He caught up with him, and Witz said, yeah, we stand by what we've said. I stand by my reporting. The paper backs me as well. Hit us up with your thoughts at Outkick 360. Current scores, Baylor leading UC Santa Barbara 71-54. That with 2:05 remaining in the second half. VCU and St. Mary's just underway in the second half, going back and forth. Right now, St. Mary's by 1, 31-30. And Marquette with an early lead by 6, 24-18 over Vermont. Coming up, Brandon Wright joins us in studio. We go all things bracket. We break down the NCAA tournament. That's next on Outkick 360.
Arizona gives Corbin Carroll, 22-year-old Corbin Carroll, he of all 115 Major League plate appearances, a 8-year, $111 million deal. All guaranteed. Club has, I think, a 9th-year option for $23 million or something like that. But and Bill, we were talking earlier. This is the fusion, or this is where old school baseball and sabermetrics meet, and I think they butt heads. Because in my mind, this is sabermetrician saying, okay, all of his other numbers, all of his underlying numbers from college and the minor leagues tell us that he's going to be this $100 million player, so we're going to save some money and sign him. Whereas the old school guys would be like, hey, you know what? Give me a year or two of production, and then we'll take care of you. I just think that there's I mean, obviously as a player, who wouldn't love it? But as a team, no chance. No chance, given the physical nature of the game, given the challenge of the schedule, and the human factor. I mean, how is he going to handle a slump in the big leagues? How's he going to handle the 14-day East Coast road trips? I mean, there's just so many things. I believe I mean, this is one of those guys that almost, I feel like Chipper Jones or Alex Rodriguez, when you see him, you know, he's a can't miss. And I believe he is, but I don't believe to the tune of $111 million. So, I mean, I'm curious, as a fan of a team, is this something that excites you or something that worries you?
It worries me a great deal because, as you're saying, and it doesn't matter to me what the GM was thinking, but basically he's saying, I know this kid's going to be great.
Right.
And if all of a sudden he levels off and is a 240 hitter who's stealing a couple bases and doesn't have major league power, you're stuck with $111 million over the next 8 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a very, I don't want to say very common, but you're seeing this over the last 5 years more than you've ever seen it in the history of the game combined. It just never happened. I mean, you know, guys like Soto and you know, Machado and all these young guys who got good deals young or bigger deals young. I don't know. I mean, listen, it's not my money. So as a fan, you shouldn't care. Although, is this a guy? I think the answer is yes. This is a centerpiece, right? This is a guy that you plan to have in the middle of your lineup, in the middle of your defense. Obviously, I'm assuming he's going to bring some stuff in the clubhouse as well. But this is this is a sign of modern baseball, for all it's worth, for whatever you want to take that for. It's a different game.
The other thing, Kurt, that you said, and you've said this in earlier podcasts, but this is the first time these kids are on fields where they're not the best player on the field.
Right.
Everybody else is as good as you.
Right.
Well,
this is a contract where the Diamondbacks are saying this kid will continue to be the best player on the field. Right. And I guess if you're looking for the 5-tool guy, this is it, right? I mean, you're talking about a 25 homer, 300 hitting, 400 on base percentage, 50 steal, Gold Glove caliber, and if that's the player, which, God bless him if he is, if that's the player, then this is it. Turns out to be a great deal.
Baylor has opened up the scoring on UC Santa Barbara. They now lead by 20. Under a minute to play in that one. St. Mary's and VCU back and forth. St. Mary's leading by 4. It's 35-31 with 15 minutes remaining second half. And Marquette by 8. It's 28-20, 5:14 remaining before halftime. Hud and Withrow with you. Outkick 360 rolls on across the Outkick network. Joined in studio by a great friend of the show, Brandon Wright, who is a UNC Tar Heel at heart forever, NBA vet, and plenty to discuss with the NCAA tournament. Brandon, good to see you, man.
Good to be back.
It's a rare tournament where you've joined us, where we're not going to mention UNC in the matchup. Yeah. We're going to be mentioning UNC
Can we just get it out of the way early so we get the bad stuff out of the way to start?
We should.
Let's jump right to it.
Let's just cleanse the palate right out off the bat. Then we get into more of the fun stuff with the tournament. Brandon, what the hell happened with your Tar Heels this year? That was shocking.
Yeah, it was. It was tough to watch because we didn't show up, and and early in the year there were signs that we could be okay. We had some close losses. We lost to Alabama pretty close. Had some a couple games we didn't look good, but then we got to conference play and then it went all downhill. We couldn't get it done. I think, are we the first team to be preseason number one?
First
not
team
to make
ever.
The tournament?
Yeah, first team ever
since they expanded to 64.
Yeah, I was talking to a buddy, a Carolina basketball alum. I think this is worse than the 8-20 season.
Really?
Because of the expectation, you're saying?
Well, expectation and there was so much momentum after last year, we just wanted to keep it rolling. There was a lot of talk, the Sports Illustrated article with the, on the front page, and can we do it? And, preseason number one. And, we could at least limped in the tournament. We just folded. And then it's tough, though, because, some of those guys are debating on coming back. I know Baycock is probably coming back. I think R.J. Davis is coming back. I don't know about Caleb Love. He got a lot of hate from the fans and stuff on social media, so it's going to look a lot the same next year.
I just don't understand how you can be that good in the tournament and then not live up to the expectation of, just tournament expectation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, did the players just not want to participate after they knew they weren't in the tournament? Is that what happened with the NIT?
Yeah, I think it's that too, and then a lot of those guys' futures are in the air, and you don't want to put those guys on the court for the NIT. No disrespect to that tournament, but last year down the stretch, we made a lot of shots one-on-one.
Yeah.
And, we didn't have to move the ball as much. No, this year we just didn't make those shots. We were a low assist team, pretty low scoring team for Carolina standards. We didn't run as much as we usually do. And I said this last year, the bench is still a big problem. We got to figure that out. We got to change a couple things. I mean, we could talk about that more too. I think we need to go to you got to bring in 4 or 5 stud freshmen and just hit the portal and place pieces around it. That's the only way to win these days, to me. At the highest level. Yeah. Now, Kansas has done it at a pretty good clip as far as keeping guys a long time. And you see Kentucky, they struggle with it right now a little bit. Duke, they were a little slow to start this year, even though they looked pretty good last year. Duke is actually looking like maybe the best team outside of Alabama. But I think that's what we need to do. We gotta figure it out. But, schools like Carolina and, Duke and Kentucky, you just snap your fingers and they can be back in an instant.
No doubt.
Is Hubert Davis under pressure next season following this year?
Yes, he's definitely under pressure. Especially
and it's because you can go out and get almost anyone at North Carolina, right? I mean, that's
they'll be
one of the top 2 or 3 jobs in college basketball.
And they'll be patient with him, but he has to come up and win. This year was definitely unacceptable coming off last year. And he's been around. He's been on some great teams, on a great coaching staffs of teams that got beat by Villanova and then came back and won it the next year. So he's seen the lowest of the lows and then the highest of the highs. So, I mean, we just got to get on the road and get some guys in here. And, I hate to say it, I don't like it, but we got to hit the portal. It's the new reality.
Everyone else is.
It's the new reality of college basketball. You got to get those right pieces in, and it's kind of like it's the NBA model right now where you got to put a team together and let's try to make a run with it.
So, Brandon, you were a star player from Nashville coming out of high school. One-and-done, capable type player, prospect, McDonald's All-American. Brandon Miller, same thing.
Yep.
From Cane Ridge High School, one-and-done guy at Alabama. A lot has happened this year.
Oh, yeah.
With that Alabama program. Just when you look at that from afar, what are your thoughts about what Alabama, how they've handled this, but also that team, and they're terrific. They're the number 1 overall seed for a reason, and Brandon Miller, clearly a special talent.
Yeah, I mean, let's give a team credit. I mean, they played great this year. And, I mean, they're still playing like nothing is affecting them off the court as far as what's going on. But, I mean, Alabama, I think they did a terrible job, handling the situation. I probably would have just pulled all those players and at least step back and take a breath and kind of evaluate what's going on. They were lying at first, and then they kind of misled us, and now they're telling us something different, and now everyone's just playing. I mean, those guys are playing great. I'm glad they're separated distractions and keeping that away from the team. But I just think it's a whole debacle and tragedy. I mean, because we brush over that a young lady lost her life in this whole thing. So
right.
that's the tough part for me.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to separate. I look at the basketball, but now then the big picture is, I mean, she's not coming back.
Is there?
And it's also strange. You have daughters also.
Yep.
I have daughters. Nate Oates says, I have 3 daughters, but I treat these players like my sons. I don't have sons. And I'm thinking, are we not going to acknowledge that someone's daughter died?
Yeah.
In this, when you're talking about it? So think about your daughter if that happened.
Yeah.
How would you want the school and the basketball program to treat that? Do you think they should go on with no punishment if they were involved at all? In any way, accidentally or not? I mean, that's the hard time I have with all this.
Yeah, that's the tough part for me too. Like they barely mention the young woman's name, or they don't talk about her that much. They just call it an unfortunate situation at first.
Yeah.
That's tough, and legally I think Brandon will probably be fine. But the optics behind how the school, carried themselves and what they did was pretty messed up.
Is there any doubt in your mind that he face nothing because he is the best player in the country?
That always helps. And I
they're
think
a 500 team. Like what would have happened?
I mean, they probably would have pulled him. And that's another thing too. You kind of question Nate Oates and the athletic department. Like, they're probably looking in each other's faces saying, we got a chance to win a national championship this year. When was the last time Alabama won a national championship in basketball?
Never.
Exactly. So they're saying, do we want to spoil this opportunity now, or do we want to just go ahead and go with it and, whatever may come out down the line comes out, we'll deal with the repercussions, but we got to go ball.
You have them winning?
No.
Who do you have winning? Or did you have winning? Did you have Arizona?
I did not have Arizona.
How high did you have UNC in your NIT bracket before they pull out? Kidding.
No, I like Kansas to win again this year, just because they just been so solid and they've been through all those Big 12 teams. I got them going far because they've been through a lot of wars this year.
How concerned are you with Bill Self and his health situation? He may be there next weekend. You know, it's kind of a hit or miss situation there. Does that give you cause for concern?
Yeah, it does a little bit. It always concerns me when someone gets sick or injured and they don't tell us what actually happened to them. You know, they haven't released anything. They didn't tell us it was the flu, or they didn't tell us it was COVID. You know, so that makes me kind of concerned.
Well, we know now. Just recently, he had stents put in. He had some sort of heart.
Yeah,
and he's
issue.
released.
Yeah.
So it's serious then. You know?
It's serious.
So I mean, I wouldn't count on
Goodman said though that chances are he's returning at some point in the tournament.
Which sounds crazy.
Yeah, I mean, because you want to put stress on your heart. I mean,
Right.
I wouldn't. If I'm the Kansas administration, I'm saying, hey, take the rest of the year off. We'll see you next year. You know, hopefully we can pull it out without you.
Yeah.
You know, you can be at the game or you can be in the locker room or whatever, but you know, we need you healthy for the long run. You know, for your family. You know, not for us.
How do you evaluate Tony Bennett in Virginia? I mean, this is one of the crazier stories in careers in that he's won 6 NCAA tournament games in his career, and they all came in one season.
Yeah.
And he has lost in the first round and upset in the first round every other, and not just upset, 16-1, 13-4, 14-3. But he's got a national championship. He's one of the few coaches that has that on their resume. How do you evaluate that program overall?
I mean, I think it's a great program. I think he's a great coach. And the way
I agree.
The way I look at them is they do something different in the ACC that no one really does. Clemson is kind of like them a little bit as far as the way they play. But they get out there and they want to lunch pill it. They play like Tennessee every night on defense. They give it their all. They grind you out. They don't care if the game is in the 40s. That's what they do. You know, when they won the championship, they had a lot of NBA players. Let's be honest about it. And I was actually talking to somebody about this last night about Virginia, and they asked me a similar question to you and why what's going on with them. I think they need to be like Duke. So when remember Duke from about late 90s to about 2010, 2012, they were always the best team defensively in the ACC. And then Coach K got really, really smart. He said, you know what? I think we need to flip this. I think we need to start recruiting better offensive players, put less emphasis on defense, and we need to start scoring the ball more. I think that's what Virginia's going to have to do. They're going to have to flip the whole script. Because, I mean, they can get those guys there. I mean, it's a good enough program. But they have to flip it. They can't continue to play the way they play because that's what happens in the NCAA tournament. They don't score enough points and they get beat by a team they should have beat.
Brandon Wright in studio with us. Outkick 360 rolls on and on the Outkick Network. Brandon Wright, of course, played for North Carolina. There is no chance in hell he would say he's cheering for Duke in anything. We have Auburn and an Auburn player saying that he's cheering for Alabama throughout this tournament. You know the rivalry there. Charles Barkley is saying that he hopes Alabama does well and that he believes that Auburn will be rooting for Bama. And then sure enough, there's a player on the team that says, yeah, I'm rooting for Alabama. What do you make of that? And what would you think if you saw a Tar Heel say that about a Blue Devil?
I mean, personally, it just doesn't feel right. You know, I don't want to see NC State win a game. You know, I don't want to see any of these schools. I mean, I was happy Virginia lost, to be honest. You know, they've been kicking our butts for the last 5 years or so. So I was kind of happy they lost, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch those teams, especially in your conference, and especially if they've beaten you, and you say, oh, I just want to go, I hope they win it if we don't win it. Did he even say if we don't win it?
Oh, no. He said we're rooting on because we're both schools from the state of Alabama. Yeah. I mean, if Tyler Hansbrough came out and said, you know, I'm rooting for Duke to win this national title, do you have an intervention? Do you excommunicate him from the Tar Heel Club? Do you pick up the phone and call him? Like, I feel like some teammates need to probably talk to a fellow Tar Heel and say, yeah, we don't do that here, right?
Yeah, and I guess it's different in, you know, that rivalry, but this, you know, on this side is deep. You know, if I just can't imagine one of our guys or even one of their guys saying that, you know, that was a pretty crazy statement. And you know, they haven't even lost it. They're still playing, you know, so That's unbelievable.
It's a new generation.
It is. That's
it's a
exactly
soft
what it is.
generation.
It's a newer generation.
And
It's different. It's different.
Let's talk about Duke because they are red hot. I mean, this is how you want to be playing come this tournament. They jump out to an 11-0 lead last night. They roll easily over a good Oral Roberts team. And you've got this weird situation now, Brandon, where Tennessee will be in the white uniforms in the second round as the higher seed against Duke. And I don't think anybody thinks Tennessee's going to win based on how they've played without Zakai Ziegler versus the way Duke is playing right now. What kind of chance do you give the Vols to upset the number 5 seed as a number 4 seed with playing Duke this Saturday?
Low. I mean, I just don't see how Tennessee scores enough points. And this is a good matchup, actually, for them, I think. I think they can get pretty physical with Duke. Duke is a young team, but they're very tall. But, Tennessee is strong. They got bigs on the inside. They can handle the paint. Tennessee's been great defensively all year, and that's what's causing them to win. That's what allowing them to win a lot of games. But I just think Duke's going to have too much for them. But, I mean, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than we think, but I think Duke will pull it out. I mean, I think Duke probably gets to the Final Four. I mean, the path is there. And they were a little up and down earlier this year, but now they're on fire. I mean, and they got a lot of NBA players too. I mean, those guys came in with a lot of heat, and then they kind of, this team is not as good as we thought they are, but they actually are pretty good. They're peaking at the right time.
Can you point to one thing with Rick Barnes? I saw that now that Coach K's retired, he's got more NCAA tournament appearances than any active coach at 27.
Yeah.
But he doesn't win in the NCAA tournament. Is there one characteristic or trait you can point to as to why that is? An example is Dan Dockich, who's on the Outkick Network. He says guys like Rick Barnes, they're so stubborn on defense and they're so consistent that they don't change their mindset in the tournament. And if you make a defensive gaffe, they pull you, and you can't pull guys who can score in the tournament. You got to let them play through it a little bit more in tournament games, and Barnes is unwilling to do that. Is that part of it?
Yeah. I mean, look at the Oregon State game. I mean, those guys were shooting the lights out. He's pulling guys in and out, But you taking your best players off the court. Those guys that got you, was it a 4 seed or whatever they were, or the 5 seed?
Yeah, I think it was that was a 5-12 game. Yeah.
You're playing a hot team that's shooting a lot of threes, but you reluctant to change it up. And I made a lot. I'm in a group chat with a bunch of Tennessee fans. And they were upset about it. I said, Tennessee is in a stage now where they need to figure out how they can get to the next level, and I don't think Barnes would be that coach.
Was there a point this season though you thought they were a title contender, the way they were playing?
No, I still don't think they can do it. I think it's whenever Barnes moves on, retire, whatever, that next coach can take this program to the next level. It's kind of like Nova did with Jay Wright and how they're doing down at Baylor. That's the next step for Tennessee basketball, in my opinion.
Do you think there's another team that gets involved for Pitino? It seems like St. John's right now.
I think it's probably a done deal behind closed doors.
Did Pitino recruit you?
He did.
How were the parties? I'm kidding. Was he at Louisville at the time?
He was at Louisville. I actually didn't even take the official visit.
Really?
So I was on my way, and then I think a guy, what was his name? Derek Character committed.
Yeah, I remember him.
And they took him, and they said, we don't know if you're coming here. It's up in there. And I, cool. It was fine. And then a week later, they called back. They were like, "Do you still want to come on the visit?" Now, it was done after that. But that's how that went down.
How big was the Pitino name when you were going through recruiting? Because that's for us, that is a big time college basketball brand. Is Rick Pitino?
No, it was huge. I mean, massive. Like when he came to BA, it was like a story. People like all the sports fans like running around, and because he pulled up in a limo, and he had on his suit, just clean, just his traditional, his New York style, Italian mafia type of feel.
Tailored.
Yep, he was clean. He spoke. You look him in his eye, he demands the respect. I mean, he's a great guy, great coach.
What did Carolina and Duke pull up in?
They were a little bit more low key. Hey, I think that's just the Pitino style, though.
Oh, no doubt. But you think it's St. John's and it's done?
I think he fits perfect.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, just look at everything that and I think he's going to win there pretty quickly too.
What do you think Texas does?
I like Texas too, but they are kind of inconsistent. They lost some games that they shouldn't have lost, but like I said, I like those Big 12 teams. They've been through a lot of wars this year. I mean, all those top 6, 7 teams, they're all good.
K-State,
TCU is good too. you know, those teams are solid. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if any of those teams just made a run to the Final Four.
What's the missing piece that Shaka Smart could not figure out about Texas that he's doing at Marquette now?
I think it's just the pressure. I think he performs well at places that don't have the as high expectations. You know, VCU, you know, great situation. You know, I can do what I need to do. I can bring in the guys I want to bring. Then you get to Texas, and then, you know, whoa, you got to go to Final Fours almost every year. You know, at least be competing for Big 12 championships with Kansas and Baylor. You know, you can't be losing to Texas Tech. You know, you got to get the job done. A lot of pressure. Then you go somewhere, Marquette, he's a little bit more comfortable. You know, league is a little bit different, a little bit more laid back. It's Milwaukee. You know, it's a little bit different. You know, less money. Then you get your guys back in that you're used to recruiting. You don't have to worry about the top of the top, and you can go win. And he's done a great job this year.
Is there a dark horse Final Four team for you?
I mean, I think Chad already said it. I think Indiana is probably the dark horse team for me, at least. I like what they're doing. You know, I like the team. I actually, you know, caught a lot of their games this year on ESPN or whatever. But the team looks good. You know, those Big Ten teams. It was a tough conference also. I like those teams, those conferences where every night you have to fight, no matter if it's the best team in the league or the worst team in the league. You know, you got to fight. Those teams traditionally do well.
How would you guard Zach Edey of Purdue at 7'5" and his weight?
I mean, you got to work him on defense. That's the thing. Get him out in the pick and rolls as best as you can. I know they do a good job of kicking them back down in the post. You know, those 5 wides, you know, they really hurt him. And, you know, he has to move his feet and guard those screen and rolls and guard, you know, tinier guys. But, I mean, he's just an absolute monster. I like his game, though. You know, I like how he plays.
He moves well for a guy his size,
He does
too.
move
I mean, it's
pretty
not
well.
all slow. Like, he's got good fluid movements at times.
We got to look at Purdue's, like, roster, like, the last 7 or 8. They always have a guy over 7 foot that's at least 250 pounds plus every year. They love having that big guy in the middle. But, you know, it hadn't translated to the tournament, so we'll see what they can do.
Brandon, you're in the league, NBA, for a dozen years. You played in Memphis. Behind the scenes, is the NBA doing what they need to do with Ja Morant to make sure that they get him back on a path that is a positive one instead of this downward spiral we're watching play out?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any inside information on the actual situation, but I think they kind of gave him a slap on the wrist, like, hey, look, man, you gotta straighten it up. You know, no more guns on social media, no more hollow point tweets, no more, you know, gun shooting during the game. You know, we gotta pull this in. Because the investigation, I wonder if we'll ever see the full investigation on, you know, where he got the gun from, or, you know, did he travel with it on the plane? You know, what was the situation? But I think
all they've said is they could not prove if it was on the plane or not.
I mean, I think they really said, look, we're gonna give you a break here. And we think I think he's a good kid, you know, but obviously, you know, this nonsense type of stuff has to stop. You know, if he wants to continue and being an NBA player, you know, obviously he can't do these type of things. But I think they pulled him to the side and just let's get away from the game for a second. Let's look at what you've been doing. You know, this situation, you know, let's calm it out. Let's pull back just a little bit, you know, and then remember why you're here. You know, I think it's that type of thing.
Well, and I mean, everyone has something to lose here, but from Ja's perspective, I mean, where would you put him in the league? Just pure talent.
I mean, he's at least top 10 at
minimum.
At minimum, yeah.
And then you have a debate from there.
Yeah, you can argue top 5, but I mean, they need him. But you know, all this stuff is crazy though, because you look at their home record and you look at their road record. I mean, they're a terrible team on the road.
Well, they're now leaving party cities right after the game and not staying the night.
Yeah, that's
because of what's going on.
That's the interesting thing. You know, usually that's controlled by the vets on the team. You know, the coach will ask you, I want to stay over, what do you want to do? They go over these things before the season started. So that's probably a good move. You know, instead of staying over in Miami or staying over in Atlanta, let's go ahead and go to the next city. Because if you do that, you kind of burn the whole night. You can't really go out because everything else is closed, you know.
What's a punishment if you stay over in the city? Charlotte? Where else were you going?
You wouldn't stay in Charlotte.
Utah?
Milwaukee?
Yeah, you wouldn't stay in those places. Usually, you know, go to Chicago or whatever. but you usually don't stay. You stay over in like Miami and Phoenix and obviously in L.A.
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma City's going to be in L.A. the whole week. So it's interesting.
For Lakers Clippers?
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think they're like a game back of 10th. So they need to win these games.
And they're going to stay in L.A.
Coaches are just
for a
sweating
week.
it the whole
And
time.
that's the youngest team in the league too. So when you guys get some free time, just check that out.
Oh, wow.
See how
Yeah,
they
I
do.
will.
Brandon, thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you as
appreciate you
always.
guys.
Always great seeing you.
Yeah, Brandon Wright, one of the best. Be Right 34 on social is where you can find him. Tar Heel, who will never cheer for a Blue Devil. We've got plenty of details coming up on the in-game scores and much more straight ahead on Outkick 360. Brady recently retiring. Your locker was very close to Tom's locker,
right
wasn't
next
it?
to 12, yeah.
What was that like?
Man, it was cool, man. He a funny dude, man. He's a nice guy. Joke with him every day. You know, he's a good dude, man. He's probably one of the only dudes that I know that walk around in a bathrobe in the locker room, bro. So
you go up against him in practice all the time. Could you see that big jump coming from Daniel Jones going into this season?
Man, when I first played against Daniel, coming in last year and seeing him work, man, I knew, the talent that he had. It was just one of those things where, you always hear the saying, God's timing is always right. It was just one of those moments where you knew eventually it was going to click and everything was going to work out, not just for him, but for us as a team. And I'm just so happy for him.
Which video game are you most proud of making the cover for?
Oh, definitely Madden. Madden, yeah. Like I remember I come from a big family. My mom had 6 sisters and 1 brother and a lot of cousins, 30-some cousins. And, and I remember one of the younger ones was like, man, you're on Madden. You're really good. And I was like, I was the high school #1 player in the country.
Yeah.
I broke every record at Alabama, All-American. I get the pros. I'd won the MVP already.
Yeah.
Been to the Super Bowl, won the MVP. He's like, now because of Madden, now you're cool. I was like, oh, okay.
You had done a few things.
Yeah. Now I'm good. Okay, all right. Well, that's how it works in y'all's minds.
And I remember when I first started working in the morning news. Shout out to Drew Kaliski, super producer for NFL Today. He was just talking about season. How you feeling? You ready to go? Are you excited? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like awkwardly hesitating to ask me a question. And I'm like, what's up, man? Speak your piece. And he's like, do you know what's going on in the NFL? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, do you know who plays for what teams and who's been traded where? I'm like, yeah, bro. What do you think? I'm living under a rock. And this is my job. I'm studying just like anything else.
How much fun are you having staying attached to the game and being able to talk about it weekly?
It is beautiful for me. I enjoy football. I enjoy our family at NBC, and we get to cover some great games. But to do different projects, I got to go to Jacksonville and interview Doug Peterson for the game and talk about his impact of what he's done, not only for the team, but in the city of Jacksonville. Those are the kind of special things. I got to go to Buffalo and cover a game up there and actually did a chapel service for the Bills before the game. And I got to meet DeMar Hamlin and some of those guys, and that have become kind of in the forefront of things since that incident on Monday night.
Now it's almost like the SEC and everybody else. And so if you end up going to the Big 12, it's like, oh, well, you may not have gotten an offer from a SEC school. You go to Pac-12, and it's like, well, you're going to get lost out there. So it's just tough with the competition, but we got to bring some recruits in.
You were a Big East guy. You
Yeah.
played in the Big East. Do you like the move to the ACC for Syracuse? It's been a while now, but did you like it at the time? What do you think now?
I'm on the board of trustees, and I'm a alum. I'm a alum from that. Now I'm retired, but it was a decision I helped make. But I just always thought it was going to be tough moving to the ACC and competing in all of our sports.
Can a running back today in the league win MVP?
They would have to score a lot of touchdowns. I think that's the thing. Like the yards are starting to get taken for granted a little bit. And so you got to need yards and touchdowns. And Adrian's done it. LaDainian, and then I think you got to go back to like Marshall and Emmett, right?
Yeah,
So it's a big gap now, and I think that you have to have the touchdowns and yards both to get it.
6 minutes into the game, Pittsburgh up big over Iowa State. The 11 over the 6 scores 16-2. Outkick 360 rolls on across the Outkick network. Marquette leaves Vermont at the half by 9. It's 39-30. And St. Mary's by 7 over VCU currently in the second half, 7:47 remaining. Kansas, they took care of Howard easily. The blowout by the Jayhawks. And Vice President Kamala Harris, well, a very positive pep talk to Howard postgame.
You guys are so good. You played hard. You played to the very last second. You made all us Bisons so proud. You showed the world who Bison are. You know, I was at Howard back in the day where we were just happy that there was a game. Much less getting to this place, right? And I see Bison literally all over the world, and we've been talking about you, this team. You make us so proud. So I know you may not be feeling great right now, okay? But know who you are. You are excellence.
She is Selena Meyer from Veep. That is Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I've seen the cut-up of that.
Yeah.
But that speech, I mean, it looks like it was written by, I think, Armando Iannucci was the writer and creator of Veep. He wrote that speech. It is so uncomfortable and awkward and just funny throughout. It's as if Selena Meyer, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, addressed her alma mater after a game and didn't know anything about the team and didn't know what happened. And, in fact, probably didn't know anything about basketball or the purpose of the sport.
Or just knew that they lost.
And just walked in to go, you tried so hard. All the Bisons everywhere there's Bisons everywhere. They're proud. For a second, I didn't know if it was Teddy Roosevelt talking about bisons across America and the Preservation Acts that he was going through, or talking about Howard alums. That is hilarious. I'm not even mad at it. It's just so funny.
68 was the final.
I mean, you also have to know, like, a team just lost.
Right.
If you were around sports, she's clearly not. But if you're around sports at all, you'd know to get in and get out quick. Hey, guys, know it's a tough time. Thank you so much for working so hard throughout the year.
Yeah,
you made all of us Howard alum proud to get to this point. I know you can't really see that right now, but thank you. I was thrilled to be here today as an alum. Thank you. And get out if you're hurt instead of
adding to the sentence by sentence.
Sounding
downfall.
like you were getting a snack because you've successfully completed nap time after lunch in kindergarten. Guys, you're just so smart and tried so hard to the very last second. Thank you so much.
At least you didn't bring up NASA and space, right?
That was incredible comedy. So thank you, Kamala Harris, for providing that clip for us.
How about Pitt? 18-2 over Iowa State to begin this game. From the play-in
This is one of Hutton's
to the round
bets.
of 32. Yes, for sure.
You got to get in on our bets.
It's time to win, Chad.
Some of the best bets around is what you'll find right here.
Kentucky takes on Providence later this evening in Greensboro. The first tip-off in Greensboro, great matchup between Xavier and Kennesaw State, where Xavier advanced barely. Trey Wallace was there. We previewed the Wildcats matchup out of the SEC against Providence and much more. We'll lead off with scores and a preview from Trey on Outkick 360.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation. And pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into Outkick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
So the higher that number can be, the better you are with the committee. It's really that simple.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
He's got incredible taste in which media figures he listens to.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number one overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
Why are we going through Melania's goods? Don't make Brittany Griner out to be some type freedom fighter. Shouldn't there be a little bit of common sense? Let's roll 'em, big boy. What do you got?
They want to find someone to be the face of domestic terrorism, and they want it to be a right-wing Trump supporter. Don't let them entrap you into doing something dumb. But they were hyper-rational. They looked at the data, and they said it makes no sense for me to submit to this COVID shot mandate.
Get the shot or you can't go to your brother's wedding. Get the shot or you can't go to your daughter's graduation. Get the shot or else.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of the Southern Legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here. Outkick 360 rolls on. Hutton and Withrow here. Happy St. Patty's Day. St. Madness Day is what we're calling it here at 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer, Old Smoky Moonshine. You can't see the bar, but it is packed right behind us, Chad. With
great crowd.
You noticed this first, and you're right. I was just outside. A lot of people wearing school colors not represented in the tournament.
I take issue with
green
this.
At the same.
I take issue with this. I saw 3 Michigan hats during the Michigan State game. Maybe they're just trolling. Maybe that's what's going on.
Maybe.
Saw a guy in a Syracuse pullover also. Maybe just really sad about Jim Boeheim being forced out. Yeah. But I feel like if your team isn't in the tournament, you sacrifice the ability to wear your team gear. You just go neutral. Just don't wear team gear.
Especially on St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, there was a girl yesterday in a UNC Asheville jersey, which shocked me.
And that's perfect.
That was here at 6th and Peabody, right?
You're on board with that for a while.
Yeah, they played that night. Great. I want to see more UNC Asheville jerseys if they're in the tournament, less Michigan hats when they're in the NIT.
Trey Wallace is in Greensboro, and he's going to catch Kentucky's matchup against Providence later this evening. Saw a great game between Xavier and Kennesaw State earlier today, and right now in front of him he's got a blowout with Pittsburgh leading Iowa State 19-2. Trey, hope things are well in Greensboro, and you saw a great finish earlier today with Kennesaw State and Xavier advancing.
Yeah, what a wild game. Hope you guys are well. That was I was not expecting that as the concert goes on over ahead of me. Man, Kennesaw State played so good. But really just couldn't get anything going. down there at the end. They had a shot to win it, but man, when Xavier went on that run, Kennesaw State was just struggling, guys, to find a shot. So, hey, look, we've seen some crazy upsets in this tournament so far, and I got a great story out of it with some obliterated Kennesaw State fans kind of sitting next to me. So it was a fun atmosphere and a really good game. And now I'm sitting here, and we got a blowout going on with Pittsburgh right now over Iowa State. So already just a wild day, boys.
Yeah, Pitt up by 17 in the first half with 12 minutes to play in the first half there. Trey, what's the pressure like with Kentucky as they tip off tonight against Providence? You wrote about this today at Outkick.
Yeah, it's look, this is tough. You if you're Kentucky, and you guys know this, you can't go another year getting bounced in the first round of the tournament. You know, St. Peter's got them in 2022 in Indianapolis. They were bounced in the first round, the first game that they played in Nashville last week in the SEC tournament. You come out here and you lose to Ed Cooley and Providence first round of the tournament. I'm just saying, like, it's been such a weird year for Kentucky that if they end up losing this game tonight, you're going to have a lot of agitated Kentucky fans. You're going to have a lot of people coming after John Calipari. Rightfully so, in my opinion, just because you look at the roster that they have, guys, they shouldn't be losing some of these games. This is a Kentucky team that I don't understand. I think everybody's trying to figure out. But right now, I look at it and I think if they lose tonight, it's going to be an ugly offseason in Lexington. Just because of the amount of blue here, Kentucky is good, in my opinion, and I think they should beat Providence. So we're setting up for a Providence win. That's what's happening, by the way. Like, that's coming from them.
Well, how have Kentucky fans traveled for this? We saw they showed up in droves in Nashville a week ago, but they were one and done in the SEC tournament on that Friday night. What does the crowd look like? What was the crowd? I'm always fascinated watching. I've been to many of these tournament venues. When the underdog is in the game or starts making a charge, how the entire arena unites behind the underdog. What was it like in that venue today for Kennesaw State and what they were doing? And were all the blue Kentucky fans in the building at that point cheering on Kennesaw State?
It was fun. If you had a nice contingent, you guys see it on TV. It's like one section for the visiting team or each team that's here. But there were Kennesaw State fans everywhere. You have to remember, this is their first ever NCAA tournament appearance. 3 years ago, they were 1-28. The coach talked about it after the game. They had 350 fans, attending their regular season basketball games. He had more than that sitting here for the NCAA tournament. It was fun atmosphere, Jed. I've seen Kentucky jerseys, like some Kentucky jerseys, but I'll be honest, I don't see much blue here. And there's a problem. Pittsburgh's got a section to my right, and they're all wearing blue and yellow. And if we're talking about Wildcat blue, I don't see a lot. And I know it's different sessions, but Kentucky fans, they buy up all the tickets. And I'm surprised that I don't see that many Kentucky fans here yet. So we'll see.
Trey,
maybe they got the message.
Yeah, Trey, speaking of surprise, I was surprised to watch A&M just get destroyed by Penn State last night after all the talk about them, deserving a higher seed. I still believe that. I don't think the loss proves anything to me. They lost in part because they were placed against a really good team as a 10 seed in Penn State. They still should have been a 5 seed, but they didn't show up in this tournament, and Penn State did. Were you surprised with that outcome?
Yeah, Chad, I was thrown off by that. I thought Texas A&M was going to come out and play better. I knew Penn State was good from 3-point range, but I did not expect them to be down 18 points and they're just starting the second half. All the argument was, well, Texas A&M, why are they a 7? Well, I'm not taking anything away from that part. I still feel like I agree with you. I think they were kind of undersold a little bit, but you don't show up in the tournament, your shots don't fall. This is what happens. You lose in the SEC championship game. You come out, you get bounced in the first round in Des Moines, and it's just a bad spot for the Aggies where they didn't make the tournament last year, make it this year. You get bounced in the first game to an opponent that I thought that they should beat. They could control the 3-point line, but they ended up not. So another SEC that's down right now. We'll have to see how that. I'm interested to see what the future of A&M basketball looks like, but I think they'll be okay. But then we had other good games last night. Tennessee deciding, we're going to blow this 18-point lead, and then we're going to pull on a win. So just a crazy night.
Trey Wallace with us from Greensboro, where Kentucky will take on Providence coming up in a couple of hours. We'll preview Tennessee and Duke momentarily. But also tomorrow, Trey, we have two SEC programs taking on one seeds. Arkansas has Kansas. Auburn takes on Houston. Auburn or Arkansas, which team has the best chance of taking down a number one tomorrow?
Like the smart person would say Auburn because they're playing in Birmingham. They're playing 200 miles away from home. They're going to have a full crowd there. I like Arkansas. I picked Arkansas to beat Illinois. I picked them to beat Kansas. I love Nick Smith. I love Ricky Council. I love Mitchell Prince. Like that basketball team to me, they have the feel and the way that they play getting up and down the court. They can stick with Kansas. I like that. And now look at Auburn, the way that they play against decent opponent, in my opinion, in Iowa, the way they were getting up and down the court, man, like that's going to be tough for Houston. Like this is not a gimme for the Cougars tomorrow. I don't care if they're 1 seed or not. I think that Auburn has a really good chance of coming out and winning that game. So it should be a crazy atmosphere because you got Alabama and you got Auburn in the same arena. They're not playing each other, but they're playing on the same day, and fans have to buy the same tickets to get in. That atmosphere is going to be insane tomorrow down there for both games. And I do think I think Arkansas is the team, in my opinion, that's going to win that game tomorrow. But don't be surprised if Auburn's hanging around late in the second half.
Chad, you and I earlier today we were discussing Duke and Tennessee, and we for our official picks at outkick.com/bet, we're taking Duke minus the points. But Chad, set up for Trey. You do have this feeling of this could be a matchup where Tennessee actually turns it on.
I think Tennessee's size can match up well with the 2 7-foot young guys for Duke. But Trey, I also feel like Tennessee this year, when they are attacked, they don't respond well. We saw that with a 13-0 run last night with Louisiana, where they could not just tread water during that time until Rick Barnes finally called a timeout. We saw it time and time again this year. But when they feel like they're slighted or they're a big underdog, I look at Kansas, I look at Alabama, I look at Texas because they had the revenge factor from losing a close game the year before. When they are on the attack, they're typically pretty good. This is one of those settings. No one is buying Tennessee. They're the higher seed, but no one believes they're going to win. Everyone knows Duke. Everyone loves Duke because they've been playing so well. I'm not picking Tennessee to win this game, but it would not surprise me if they come up with a great effort in this game against Duke. What do you think?
Well, to be honest with you, it wouldn't shock me if Tennessee comes out and beats Duke by 15 points tomorrow, Chad.
Wow.
Like this and let me phrase this the right way. I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee won by 15. I wouldn't be surprised if Duke came out and beat Tennessee by double-digit points either. Tennessee has a tendency, not even a tendency anymore. They do it pretty much every scoring drought. Other teams get back in the game. Tennessee struggles to make a shot. You saw it last night. I think that them being able to hold on against Louisiana, that showed some grit from that Tennessee team. Look, Duke's good. It's a really good basketball team. They've come on strong over the last month and a half. Tennessee has some players. If you can get shots like that from Jemai Mashack, you can get Vescovi driving the basketball, Triple J hitting his shots outside the paint. You've got yourself an opportunity. But it's going to come down to Olivier. It's going to come down to Euros in the paint. And if they're able to do anything when it comes to rebounding, it's got that feeling where you don't really know what to expect because you've seen Tennessee and you've kind of seen Duke play. But it just wouldn't surprise me if Tennessee just won that game tomorrow convincingly, somehow just breaks it open on offense, and we're all sitting here like, well, man, where the heck was that? I don't know. It's one of those games where I think that overall Tennessee has the better defense, in my opinion, but can they do anything on offense? I think makes me double think my selection of Tennessee going to MSG. So you can't ask for bigger stakes, guys. Tennessee wins tomorrow. They're going to Madison Square Garden. There's an opportunity if Kentucky and Tennessee fans and MSG next weekend. We're setting up for some craziness, I think, when it comes to some of these SEC squads.
That would be awesome. Trey Wallace will have it covered tonight with Kentucky taking on Providence. Kansas State plays after that game as well. And right now, in front of him, Pittsburgh leads Iowa State 22-6 with 8 minutes remaining in the first half. Right now, Iowa State is on pace to score 20 points in this ball game. They had their first field goal with 9 minutes remaining in the game.
Yeah.
Or in the first half, I should say. Trey, thank you, man. There is Trey Wallace of Outkick.com. Chad, tomorrow, Furman or Princeton? Who has the best chance to advance?
Furman. I think Furman does.
Because Princeton has Missouri.
Yeah. Furman
has San Diego State.
By the way, Vermont had closed to within 5 of Marquette after being down 14, but now Marquette hits a 3, 14 minutes left in that half.
48-40 the score with 14 to play. Make that 50-40 with 14 minutes to play. And the other matchup right now, Creighton and NC State underway. And in the South region, it's Creighton by 3, 11-8 the score, 10:49 remaining first half. Still to come, Iona and UConn with Rick Pitino taking on Hurley. And Purdue, the 1 seed out of the East, Fairleigh Dickinson and Purdue will tip off at 5:50 Eastern.
Here's what's interesting, by the way. Both those teams, Princeton and Furman moving on, they get a team that's similar style to them. Yeah. Princeton's going to shoot a ton of threes. Missouri's going to shoot a ton of threes and move the ball quick. Furman's going to play a slow-it-down team at San Diego State, who they just saw. And they're sort of a team built in that image also.
Yeah.
So I would say Furman over San Diego State, more likely. But both should be really good games.
Keep you updated on all the scores. And when we return, John McClain joins us from Las Vegas. We'll get his take as he's watching the tournament from the sports books there. And we'll dive into the week that was across the NFL, all the storylines from the opening week of free agency. This is Outkick 360.
Arizona gives Corbin Carroll, 22-year-old Corbin Carroll, he of all 115 Major League plate appearances, a 8-year, $111 million deal. All guaranteed. Club has, I think, a 9th-year option for $23 million or something like that. But and Bill, we were talking earlier. This is the fusion, or this is where old school baseball and sabermetrics meet, and I think they butt heads. Because in my mind, this is sabermetrician saying, okay, all of his other numbers, all of his underlying numbers from college and the minor leagues tell us that he's going to be this $100 million player, so we're going to save some money and sign him. Whereas the old school guys would be like, hey, you know what? Give me a year or two of production, and then we'll take care of you. I just think that there's I mean, obviously as a player, who wouldn't love it? But as a team, no chance. No chance, given the physical nature of the game, given the challenge of the schedule, and the human factor. I mean, how is he going to handle a slump in the big leagues? How's he going to handle the 14-day East Coast road trips? I mean, there's just so many things. I believe I mean, this is one of those guys that almost, I feel like Chipper Jones or Alex Rodriguez, when you see him, you know, he's a can't miss. And I believe he is, but I don't believe to the tune of $111 million. So, I mean, I'm curious, as a fan of a team, is this something that excites you or something that worries you?
It worries me a great deal because, as you're saying, and it doesn't matter to me what the GM was thinking, but basically he's saying, I know this kid's going to be great.
Right.
And if all of a sudden he levels off and is a 240 hitter who's stealing a couple bases and doesn't have major league power, you're stuck with $111 million over the next 8 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a very, I don't want to say very common, but you're seeing this over the last 5 years more than you've ever seen it in the history of the game combined. It just never happened. I mean, you know, guys like Soto and you know, Machado and all these young guys who got good deals young or bigger deals young. I don't know. I mean, listen, it's not my money. So as a fan, you shouldn't care. Although, is this a guy? I think the answer is yes. This is a centerpiece, right? This is a guy that you plan to have in the middle of your lineup, in the middle of your defense. Obviously, I'm assuming he's going to bring some stuff in the clubhouse as well. But this is a sign of modern baseball, for all it's worth, for whatever you want to take that for. It's a different game.
The other thing, Kurt, that you said, and you've said this in earlier podcasts, but this is the first time these kids are on fields where they're not the best player on the field.
Right.
Everybody else is as good as you.
Right.
Well,
and this is a contract where the Diamondbacks are saying this kid will continue to be the best player on the field. Right. And I guess if you're looking for the 5-tool guy, this is it, right? I mean, you're talking about a 25 homer, 300 hitting, 400 on base percentage, 50 steal, Gold Glove caliber, you know. And if that's the player, which, you know, God bless him if he is, if that's the player, then it turns out to be a great deal.
Davey Hudson about to give us some live in-game scores, some finals from earlier today in the NCAA
Also, by the way,
tournament.
Real treat whenever Sleepy Danny is in studio with us.
Yeah, especially when it's his birthday.
It's like happy birthday to Sleepy Danny, but it's like a once a year. I feel like it's a biannual thing at this point. Not even once a year. It's every other year.
Was it a year ago?
With Sleepy Danny's
Was it really a year ago? It was. It was a year ago tonight that he stood on a bed and gave a speech to his birthday party.
We talked about that. You were you were not in the room at the time, but we talked about last year's party, and he gave me some insight into this year's party, and I had to immediately inform him that I'm not available for tonight's party. But
John
you guys have fun.
McClain is having a party in Las Vegas. We'll check in just a moment. But, Davey, give us the in-game scores right now for the tournament.
Right, Hut. So, I mean, we're hitting that stride where we got multiple games in. We have 3 that are live at the moment. Marquette in the second half, about to hit the 12 under. They are leading Vermont 51-43. We go over good news. Iowa State finally scored a field goal. They did not score a field goal until 10 minutes into the game.
Wow. Go Cyclones.
So right now, the 11 seed Pittsburgh Panthers are beating the 6th seed Iowa State Cyclones 26-15 with 4 minutes left in the first half on that one. And then the other game that just got into action, we have the NC State Wolfpack taking on the Creighton Blue Jays. Creighton up 18-12. We just hit the under 8 there.
I need NC State.
If it's now 26-17.
Yeah, they're coming back.
Another basket.
You are feeling great if you're Iowa State right now.
Yes.
That thing was 22-2, I think, at one point. It's
With
now
26-17.
Pittsburgh is falling on hard times now. So Iowa State mounting a comeback.
Final scores, Michigan State advances past USC by 10, 72-62. Xavier wins over Kennesaw State in what was a great game earlier today, 72-67. St. Mary's, the victor by 12 over VCU. And John McClain's Baylor Bears. They get it done against UC Santa Barbara, 74-56. John joins us from Las Vegas. John, did you win some money on your Baylor Bears?
I did. I won some money yesterday, and I lost on those choking dog Texas A&M Aggies who just stunk it up. And today I've got besides Baylor in 10.5, I have a 3-team parlay with Baylor, Iowa State, and Kansas State. And let me tell you, while I'm sitting here waiting on you guys, I am sweating big time on Iowa State, who won their last 2 games of the season over Baylor. So I've never been to Vegas on the first round of the tournament. A good friend of mine in Houston, Gary Horn, has told me, you got to come out here. It's great. We got great seats right in the middle of the sports book, suites comped because of my buddy Gary Horn. We're having a blast. It would have ruined it all, of course, if Baylor had lost to UC Santa Barbara and University of Houston. I'm pulling for them because I'm from Houston, but also Mattress Max trying to make it 2 in a row. He bet on Kansas last year before the tournament, and he bet on University of Houston before the season.
John McClain with us, GallerySports.com, the website. What is Mattress Mac like during the tournament compared to any other sporting event? I would imagine it's even more glorious and over the top.
Well, I'll tell you guys something. When he bets, he doesn't watch them. Now, he is in Birmingham, but ordinarily he's at his store, Gallery Furniture, every morning at 6:30, and he doesn't leave till 8:30. And if he has something he has to do, like last Saturday, he and I were grand marshals of the St. Patrick's Day Parade. So he went to the store, then he came downtown, then he went back to the store. Now he's in Birmingham cheering on those Cougs. And the only other time I've known him to spend the night away from Houston was during the World Series when he went to Philadelphia, which turned out to be one of the best moves he ever made because he got into it with some Philadelphia fans who were giving Jose Altuve a hard time, and Mac just went ballistic with F-bombs, which is very uncharacteristic of him. And that even endeared him even more to the fans in Houston, like he's taking up for his kids. So he's having a blast. Although, if you picked the University of Houston to win it all, and they've lost their best player again, and one of their other best players has a hyperextended knee, you can't be feeling good about them winning it all.
Yeah, John, that's going to be my question is how high or low are spirits right now based on Houston's injury problems as they get set to take on Auburn?
They're putting on a happy face, Chadlack, asking next. They haven't used the cliche I hear every stinking day during the NFL season, next man up. I never use that in a quote.
Doesn't work that way in basketball.
Never use one day at a time. And in basketball, Cougars are pretty deep, and they should still reach Sweet 16, maybe the Final Four, which is in Houston. In a perfect world, they'd go to the Final Four. They were there 2 years ago, got knocked out by those fighting Baylor Bears, Sikkim Bears. And I'd like to see them do it again because Kelvin Sampson's a class coach. I think Alabama and Houston, when healthy, are the 2 best teams in college basketball.
John McClain with us. John, let's recap what's been a very busy week, as usual, for the first week of free agency and with all the trades as well. Let's start with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. We know he wants to be there. We know that the Green Bay Packers want a decent package in return from New York, and the Packers currently with the leverage based on the timetable of when they would have to pay Aaron Rodgers the $58 million that he's owed if he stays there, and he's not going to. What do you make of the Rodgers announcement and the fact that the Jets are trying to pay less than what they're ultimately going to pay in the long run?
I am sick and tired of hearing about Aaron Rodgers. And I'm sure I'm like everybody in the country except Jets fans. Even Packers fans are tired of hearing about Rodgers. Let him go crawl back in a hole in a darkness retreat and never come out again. He loves the drama. I've never seen a guy, as he gets older, love drama more than Rodgers does. He's going to Jets. We know it. Jets know it. Packers know it. Wash your hands of him. Get rid of him. Let him go on at 39 with his 6-7 playoff record since 2010 when he won his only Super Bowl, and go up there and have to answer the questions from the Jets media that he did not like answering from the Packers media. Now, that part I can't wait to see when we get into the season.
It is a bit uncanny, the parallels with Favre and Rodgers. Same time frame. Rodgers waited 3 years. Jordan Love is waiting 3 years. And they're both being traded to the Jets.
Who says Aaron Rodgers didn't learn anything from Brett Favre? I'll tell you something about the end for Favre. For 3 years in a row, he had told him he's retiring. And Mike McCarthy, the coach, they waited. Ted Thompson, the general manager, they'd wait and they'd wait. But they thought the last time he was serious. And on their way to the Senior Bowl, they went to his house in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and they said, look, now are you retiring? Because we've made Aaron wait 3 years, and we'd love to have you back. But if you're retiring, we need to know. And he said, I'm retiring. So when they got back, there was a meeting, and Mike McCarthy was holding a football, and he tossed it to Rodgers, who was really popular with his teammates. Favre had his own office, and he stayed away. And Rodgers was just one of the guys, and he said, it's your team now. A couple months later, Favre wants to come back. Too late, so they trade him to the Jets. And hopefully, Rodgers' trade to the Jets goes better than Favre's trade to the Jets, because that was short-lived, and a couple of things came out that were kind of ugly.
John, which team to you made the most sense by the moves that they made this week?
Oh boy, Jonathan, I would have to let me think a minute.
I bring this up because normally you don't win anything the first week of free agency. Ask the Washington Redskins from years ago, right?
Yeah, but the Jaguars usually win it every year. They were champions of March, and when they spent a fortune last year, we made fun of them. Hey, champions again of March. And then some of those guys paid dividends, and they won the AFC South. I'd say the Bears, not just for the trade, but other moves they've made. They've got a whole bunch of new players, and I think it'd be incredibly ironic if Jalen Carter's stock fell to them at number 9. In my mock draft, my first one, I have him going to Seattle. Seattle has everything on offense, and the Seahawks are trying to build the defense, and they've proved in the past they don't care about character. So I think I have them getting him at 5, which would be great value based on his talent level, although he certainly hadn't done anything to distinguish himself this offseason. But in fact, I was looking on the boards at Caesars to a long shot to bet on. Commanders are 90-0, a 90-1. I told my wife, Carol, who's a diehard Redskins fan, she's so fired up about Daniel Snyder about to sell. And so I said, well, go in there and put $100 on the Commanders 90-1. And because those odds are going to go down with Snyder sales. Another one was Seattle at 60-1. Now, considering Geno Smith played so well and their offense is so good, they have runners, receivers, offensive linemen, and you know they're going to help their defense. I told her to put 100 on them. And the worst in the league are the Texans at 250-1. I think the Titans are like 150. But what I don't understand, the Bears won fewer games than the Titans. I mean, one fewer game than the Texans, and yet the Texans are 250-1 and the Bears are 90-1. How did that happen? What have the Bears done to make the odds makers think they're that much better chance to win the Super Bowl than several other teams, including the Colts and the Titans and the Texans?
John, we haven't talked to you since the Panthers traded with Chicago to get the number 1 overall selection. What was the reaction in Houston and knowing that the Texans have the number 2 pick because Lovie Smith went for 2 in the win?
Well, first of all, I've been saying for quite a while, I don't have a problem with C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. They're different quarterbacks. I like them both. And that's not based on what I think. That's based on what people I trust who have scouted both of them, and a long ways to go in the scouting process. But now I'll tell you this, Frank Reich has never had a starting quarterback, a regular starting quarterback, shorter than 6'3". If you think back to when he was with San Diego, Philip Rivers, 6'5". He goes to Philadelphia, Carson Wentz, 6'5", Nick Foles, 6'6". He goes to Indy. Jacoby Brissett is 6'3", was the shortest. Now, Sam Ehlinger, 6'2" when they drafted him, but he was never a starter. So is he going to give up all that for a quarterback who's 5'10" and an 8? Now, I know Adam Schefter said this week it's Bryce Young. I don't buy anything anybody says during the lying season. It may ultimately be, but I could see Reich with a 5-year contract. I could see him taking Stroud, or I could even see him taking Anthony Richardson if Richardson hits home runs in his pro day and his private workouts, in his meetings, his lunches and his dinners and his visits to Carolina. And then the Texans would have a choice of both. And if they do, they better get it right. And then everybody thinks the Colts are going to swap a spot with Arizona to keep another team from swapping a spot with Arizona. And then Arizona at 4 can take the best defensive lineman and the best pass rusher, Will Anderson Jr., who has nothing wrong with his character.
John McClain with us. The decision for Orlando Brown, he wanted big money. He gets it in Cincinnati, the highest that we've seen a left tackle paid. Now Jonah Williams is asking for a trade. After yesterday, we thought he was moving to right tackle in Cincinnati, but it's a nice addition for their franchise quarterback in Joe Burrow, and we know Burrow's about to get paid as well.
I'm not so sure Jonah Williams, when he's healthy, is not a better left tackle than Orlando Brown. Brown's better right tackle. But fact is, they thought they had those problems in the offensive line solved last year, and then they had injuries in the playoffs, and that's basically what kept them from going to the Super Bowl. I thought they were going to beat the Chiefs and go to the Super Bowl, and guys kept getting hurt. I bet you Williams will move. Usually when I want to be traded means I want more money.
Yeah.
And I think there's no way Cincinnati, to make the move for Orlando Brown, isn't going to trade a starting left tackle when the offensive line is their primary issue. Now, I tell you what I'm eager to wait for on them. Joe Mixon was exonerated. His sister was not, from that issue. And some of the stuff, if you Google Joe Mixon and the problems that he was in and what his agent was talking about, kids playing Nerf ball, it's unbelievable. So Mixon's out. Samaje Perine's gone, and he's a good backup. They need to add more depth to the backfield. I just put another $100 on Cincinnati at 10-1 to win the Super Bowl. Those were my 3 bets for $300. And I think some of those teams made good moves early in free agency. Some spent bad money. Texans, what they did early was boring, put me to sleep. Then they signed Jimmy Ward, who had played with the 49ers, and he'll bring the culture, and started safety next to Jalen Petrie. They traded for Shaq Mason to play right guard, cut their right guard, A.J. Cann. And then they got Case Keenum to come in here. All those people that bought it, that they were after Jimmy Garoppolo, that was a bunch of BS. Garoppolo wasn't coming here. He's a good backup quarterback, and I'll bet you he's gone from the Raiders after 1 year. So Keenum coming here signals that Davis Mills is gone, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Tim Kelly, the offensive coordinator?
He is.
Yep.
That Tim didn't whisper in Mike Vrabel's ear, hey, let's get that kid Davis Mills here, because the last 5 games of his rookie year with Kelly calling the plays, he was really good. And Vrabel knows it, because they had to win the last game of the year in Houston to get home field advantage. And Mills had 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, over 300 yards, a 128 rating, and the Titans squeaked by 3 points. So I've been predicting when Mills is gone, he'll end up with the Titans.
John, you mentioned the Raiders. Speaking of them, do you feel of those top 4 quarterbacks, Stroud, Young, Levis, Richardson, in whatever order, are all of them off the board after the Raiders pick in the top 10 picks?
I think there's so many teams, Jadlack, that need quarterbacks. Does Washington, after 1 game, really going to go with Sam Howell, or would they trade up? What about the other teams in the NFC South? I think if the Raiders want the 4th quarterback, they're going to have to trade up to get him somewhere right behind the Colts, and then those guys will be gone. It's amazing. They all have flaws, but it's amazing how much higher rated they are than the quarterbacks this time last year when Kenny Pickett was the only first-round pick. But I think the Raiders, they're Josh McDaniels. If he kept Jimmy Garoppolo for 3 years, then that'd be 4 years into his career with Mark Davis. If you get a young guy, like say Will Levis is the one who's left, then you buy some time, you buy some patience. So I think that contract's written where Garoppolo will be there a year and he could easily be gone.
John McClain with us. It's hard to hate what the Giants have done, John. Darren Waller, that pick that they received when they made the trade with Kansas City at the trade deadline, they flip pick 100 and get Darren Waller in return to Las Vegas. And it's another weapon for Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley in the backfield. This is a nice offense that's continuing on the upward trajectory for what we've seen from that coaching staff and Brian Daboll.
They signed their best receiver, Sterling Shepard, to another one-year contract. They're doing what you have to do, put some weapons around the quarterback. Now, Waller missed 10 games last year. If he misses a bunch of games this year, I still don't blame him for trying, because 2 years ago, he was outstanding. Man, last season, the Raiders were so pumped to have him and Renfro and Adams. They were ready to light it up. You know what they say about the best laid plans, but I think the Giants right now, the way they're building that team, they're doing it the smart way.
John, Jimmy G with the Raiders, he's 40-17 as a starter in the NFL. Now, we know he starts about 60% of the games as well. Speaking of injuries, he's normally hurt. What are the expectations for Jimmy Garoppolo in Vegas? And based on that contract, are the Raiders in play for a quarterback as high as number 7?
With all due respect to you, Jonathan, I think Cadillac could have a record like that if he played with the 49ers. You think back
I
to
think so
running
too,
game,
John.
the
Thank you for
offensive
acknowledging
line.
that. Yeah, I could do
You're
it.
welcome.
How about Trey Lance?
And you're still in good shape. And all the moves they made, and remember the year they went to the Super Bowl, he didn't throw the ball much.
Yeah.
And the fact is, if Kyle Shanahan's a pretty shrewd judge of talent, and he's a good play caller, he didn't want Garoppolo. He loved Garoppolo so much he gave up 3 ones, got 1 back. So ultimately 2 ones to get Trey Lance, who played 1 game his last year at North Dakota State. So far, that had worked very well. And Garoppolo last year was treated like he had some kind of disease. He wasn't even practicing with them. And then when Purdy got hurt, they had to bring him over, and he's a class act. But I still think the Raiders, if they think Jimmy Garoppolo is the answer to their quarterback issues, especially with his injury problems, they're nuts. I think they're going to be going after that 4th quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. And
now, excuse me, Jonathan,
one
other thing. I've heard people say that, well, they could take a position player and get Hendon Hooker in the 2nd round. I don't think Hendon Hooker is going to be there in the 2nd round. I think somebody is going to get him in the bottom of the 1st round. And the 2 things wrong with him, of course, he's got a knee injury, he looks real good after 3 months. And he said, well, he's going to be a 25-year-old rookie. Well, that means he wouldn't be playing till he's 26. But if he played till he's 35, that's a 10-year career. Would you take a quarterback today if you knew you could have him for 10 years? Now, maybe they won't, but the age factor is not nearly as important as it used to be, because so many players are taking great care of themselves because they know they got a lot of money they can make. So guys playing until they're 35 is no big deal. I think Hendon Hooker, if he'd not been hurt, and I'm sure Chad agrees with me, knowing how he loves the Vols, that he would have been right up there, maybe 3rd.
I'm with you too. Yeah.
No more than 4th. They had a Will Levis if he hadn't blown out his knee. And whoever gets him, it's going to be a good and shrewd draft choice.
I'm still holding out hope, John, that there's a surprise and he is ahead of one of those guys in the top 10 or 15 in the draft. Don't think it'll happen, but maybe someone will see the light and draft Hendon Hooker ahead of Will Levis.
All it takes is one team
That's right.
to fall in love with Hooker. And based on his interviews in Indy, everybody was really impressed with him. They were impressed with his attitude, the way he talked, his knowledge, everything. Now, they think he's going to need some time, but hey, they got time. So he needs to go to a team that has a veteran quarterback who's in the last year of his contract, or has a contract they can get out of, like the Raiders. And I don't know that he'd be drafted that high, but there's going to be 5 draft choices at quarterback in the 1st round, and he's going to be one. And I'm not saying he's going to be the best, but he could be among the best.
John, what do you think the Bills are doing, clearing up the cap space, other than just dropping the number by Allen and Von Miller? They cleared up nearly $30 million in space by doing that. And the thought is they're either I think the majority of people automatically point to Odell Beckham Jr., but he's not going to get what he's asking for in the open market. That's pretty clear. There's plenty of receivers out there and in the draft. But the run game, doesn't the run game need to be addressed? And when you hear that Austin Eckler wants to be traded, or the rumblings here in Nashville about Derrick Henry, what do you think the Bills are thinking?
I think the Bills have some plans to fortify some issues, and they don't have many issues. If they were to get like Bijan Robinson, and they're not, they'd have to trade way up. I have him going to Philadelphia, 10th overall. That guy's got not one blemish on his resume. He is the perfect candidate, born in the wrong era. And if the Bills could get him, I'd make him the Super Bowl favorite. What if the Chiefs found a way to get him? They want their back who's 5'11", 215, runs a 4.46, catches better than wide receivers, can line up wide in the slot. There's been a lot of talk in Houston. Texans should take him 12. They could use another back and they could use another receiver. But I think the Bills are smart enough to know that Sean McDermott, him being got a plan. And I'm not sure it's filling in with a couple other veterans. And I can't wait to see what it is, because they will be a Super Bowl contender. The key to all that is Josh Allen did not play as well under Ken Dorsey as he did for Brian Dable. He needs to bounce back because he kind of regressed. And if they do something with the running game and he progresses a little bit, they'll be right up there with the Chiefs.
John McClain is in Las Vegas for the NCAA tournament. He's about to get back to the sports books. And when we come back, we will be giving the scoreboard updates. John, congrats again to your Baylor Bears. Always enjoy the conversation, and thanks for making time for us on this Friday afternoon out there in Nevada.
Congrats on the winnings.
Thanks very much, Chad, like Jonathan. Hopefully I can win some more. Good luck to the Vols, and you guys have a great rest of the week. Thank you very much, as always.
Yes. As always here as well, gallerysports.com. The great John McClain writes there. You can read his work and opinion on the NFL draft and everything else involving what is going to be a crazy NFL offseason. Crazy story with a fair or foul scenario we have straight ahead involving a stripper pole and March Madness and scores. That's next on Outkick 360. Brady recently retiring. Your locker was very close to Tom's locker, wasn't
right next
it?
to 12, yeah.
What was that like?
Man, it was cool, man. He's a funny dude, man. He's a nice guy. Joke with him every day. You know, he's a good dude, man. He's probably one of the only dudes that I know that walk around in a bathrobe in the locker room, bro. So
you go up against him in practice all the time. Could you see that big jump coming from Daniel Jones going into this season?
Man, when I first played against Daniel, you know, coming in last year and seeing him work, man, I knew, you know, the talent that he had. It was just one of those things where, you know, you always hear the saying, God's timing is always right. It was just one of those moments where you knew eventually it was going to click and everything was going to work out, not just for him, but for us as a team. And I'm just so happy for him.
Which video game are you most proud of making the cover for?
Oh, definitely Madden. Madden, yeah. Like I remember I come from a big family. My mom had 6 sisters and 1 brother, and a lot of cousins, 30-some cousins, and you know. And I remember one of the younger ones was like, "Man, you're on Madden. You're really good." And I was like, "Cuz, like, I was the high school #1 player in the country.
Yeah.
I broke every record at Alabama, All-American. I get the pros. I'd won the MVP already. You know?
Yeah.
Been to the Super Bowl, won the MVPs. Like, now because of Madden, now you're cool. I was like, oh, okay.
You had done a few things.
Yeah. You know, now I'm good. Okay, all right. Well, that's how it works in y'all's minds.
And I remember when I first started working in the morning news. Shout out to Drew Kaliski, super producer for NFL Today. He was just talking about season. How you feeling? You know, you ready to go? Are you excited? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like awkwardly hesitating to ask me a question. And I'm like, what's up, man? Speak your piece. And he's like, do you know what's going on in the NFL? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, do you know who plays for what teams and who's been traded where? I'm like, yeah, bro, what do you think? I'm living under a rock? And this is my job. I'm studying just like anything else.
How much fun are you having staying attached to the game and being able to talk about it weekly?
It is beautiful for me. I enjoy football. I enjoy our family at NBC, and we get to cover some great games. But to do different projects, you know, I got to go to Jacksonville and interview Doug Peterson for the game and talk about his impact of what he's done, not only for the team, but in the city of Jacksonville. Those are the kind of special things. I got to go to Buffalo and cover a game up there and actually did a chapel service for the Bills before the game, and I got to meet DeMar Hamlin and some of those guys, and that have become kind of in the forefront of things since that incident on Monday night.
Now it's almost like the SEC and everybody else. And so if you end up going to the Big 12, it's like, oh, well, you may not have gotten an offer from a SEC school. You go to Pac-12, and it's like, well, you're going to get lost out there. So it's just tough with the competition, but we got to bring some recruits in.
You were a Big East guy. You
Yeah.
played in the Big East. Do you like the move to the ACC for Syracuse? It's been a while now, but did you like it at the time? What do you think now?
I'm on the board of trustees, and I'm a alum. I'm a alum from that. Now I'm retired, but it was a decision I helped make. But I just always thought it was going to be tough moving to the ACC and competing in all of our sports.
Can a running back today in the league win MVP?
They would have to score a lot of touchdowns. I think that's the thing. Like the yards are starting to get taken for granted a little bit. And so you got to need yards and touchdowns. And Adrian's done it. LaDainian, and then I think you got to go back to like Marshall and Emmett, right?
Yeah,
So it's a big gap now, and I think that you have to have the touchdowns and yards both to get it.
Chad, I think you're going to be dead on about Marquette. They win today, 78-61 over Vermont. And you have them as one of your favorites to make a run in the tournament.
I have them in the Final Four, playing Alabama in the national semi.
Baylor wins over UC Santa Barbara, and Xavier by 5 over Kennesaw State earlier today, 72-67. St. Mary's over VCU, 63-51, and Michigan State, they top USC 72-62. Just underway, the Gales. Iona, they're up by 1, 6-5 over UConn, with Rick Pitino coaching in what could possibly be his last game as the head coach at Iona. Or he advances and becomes more of a storyline than we thought going into the tournament as a 13 seed. Taking on the 4-seed UConn. That would be a bracket buster for me. I've got UConn making a run. A lot of people don't like UConn based on their matchups and how the guards can attack them. I watching them this year, I like what I've seen in the limited glimpse, Chad. But I like what I've seen from a lot of teams.
No, they're very
all
deep.
season.
I like UConn a lot, too. We got turned on. I'm going to save this for Dan Dockich because it's his story to break.
Okay.
But we got turned on to a little.
Well, he said it on his show today.
He did?
Yes.
The hack?
Yes. Go ahead. You're right.
At halftime of every game, bet the under for the game. At halftime.
The game under. He stressed this.
We are
not the second half under.
We're 4-0 right now.
I know.
Doing that today. This is pretty good knowledge to
That's
have.
lake house damage
if you
right
saw
there
me on
for
my
Dan
phone,
Dockich.
I'm on my FanDuel app, and I am putting in 2 bets for 2 games at halftime on both unders. Now that I've said that, they'll probably all lose, but buyer beware. But do it. Do it.
Dockich well represented, of course, on the Outkick Network. Joe Kinsey well represented on the show today. Mow Like a Champion with the Thursday Night Mowing League, which will be back soon.
TNML. I'm a member. Join up.
And, you know, he finds some great stories on Reddit. And there's one from a father. The user is, "Am I the a-hole?" He's asking users. He's 47. He has a 22-year-old daughter going to college and living on campus. "I agreed to make her car payments since she was in school," he writes. The dad wants to know if he's the guilty one for being the a-hole. That's what he writes here. Because he hit the nuclear bomb button and stopped helping her with car payments due to her stripping. She found out, she was informed by a young man that I work with, that my daughter strips at a club about 40 minutes away. I confronted her on this. She said she didn't plan to do it after she graduated. She needed some money. I told her, go work at McDonald's, not use your body. I'm with the father here based on the payments he's making and the money that she's claiming that she needs.
As the father of girls,
yes.
Let me have the camera here as I say this, and let me be very clear about this. There is no other choice but to cut her off at this point. There's not even a discussion to be had. This question is asked by people who aren't parents of daughters, clearly, but also you're giving someone money for car payments because they're in school and they're having a hard time paying them with the job they have. If you're telling me you're making so much money stripping that you must continue stripping for that reason, what I'm hearing is this is against everything I want you to do, but also you're doing it solely for financial gain. Well, with that financial gain, you can learn about the real world and pay your car payments with it also. You're cut off. No more car payment money from me or any dad. This dad is absolutely doing the right thing. No one should question it. I'm amazed in the story that his wife said, hold on now, let's not act rash.
She needs a car.
You're being awfully harsh here about this. Let's not cut off her car payment. Give me a break.
Well, McDonald's is paying like $24 an hour now or something?
They can't find workers.
Yeah.
They can't find workers.
Because they're at the strip club, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a financial decision, okay? Like the young woman has decided, I'm going to make more money doing this. You know, not my kid, but putting myself in this dad's shoes, this is the move. You are an a-hole, as he describes himself, if you don't do what he's doing.
Agreed.
You are hurting the development of a young person by not cutting her off.
Totally fair.
This is absolutely the move by this man.
Coming up, NCAA scores and reaction to what we've seen in the bracket thus far. We're going to tell you our picks for the evening session. We'll also peek ahead to tomorrow's matchups. A couple of Cinderellas are playing, maybe a special guest in hour number 3. And we take a glimpse at the NFL. The NFC QBs, last year, not great. And take a look at them this year, maybe worse. This is Outkick 360.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into Outkick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
So the higher that number can be, the better you are with the committee. It's really that simple.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really got to lean into the turns.
He's got incredible taste in which media figures he listens to.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
Why are we going through Melania's goods? Don't make Brittany Griner out to be some type freedom fighter. Shouldn't there be a little bit of common sense? Let's roll them, big boy. What do you got?
They want to find someone to be the face of domestic terrorism, and they want it to be a right-wing Trump supporter. Don't let them entrap you into doing something dumb. But they were hyper-rational. They looked at the data, and they said it makes no sense for me to submit to this COVID shot mandate.
Get the shot or you can't go to your brother's wedding. Get the shot or you can't go to your daughter's graduation. Get the shot or else.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of the Southern Legend.
Just like that, the final hour is here. Glad you're with us for Outkick 360. Happy Friday to you. Happy St. Paddy's Day. Happy March Madness. All the games. Day one was awesome. Today, great competition as well. Haven't seen the massive upset yet. Kennesaw State nearly did that against Xavier. Another 3 seed nearly sent packing. Instead, Xavier turned it on with the final 5-minute play, and they closed it out. They won by 5 today over Kennesaw State. We have one of the Cinderellas and the big storylines, J.P. Pegues, who hit the 3, Chad, to send Furman past Virginia. He will join us coming up in about 20 minutes. And great recall by you. He's a player that you had the chance to cover here in the mid-state area of Tennessee.
Called one of his games on TV when he played against Brandon Miller 2 years ago. Hillsboro High School versus Cane Ridge High School in the regional tournament at Hillsboro High School. And J.P. Pegues squared up against Brandon Miller. And now J.P. Pegues hits the shot of March so far. The shot of the NCAA tournament. We'll have the man who hit the shot coming up in about 20 minutes. So we're excited about that. J.P., a Nashville kid at Furman, will join us at 4:20. There's all these great stories that come out of media availability in the build-up to games. Well, now they're having media with Duke and Tennessee leading up to tomorrow's game in the second round. This is really good from Joe Rexroad. So Rick Barnes and John Shire had different, media availability. But Rick Barnes, during his time talking, said that he got John Shire to take a visit to Texas during his recruitment before he went to Duke.
Wow.
Said his sister was a student at Texas at the time, though she wasn't sure if she wanted her little brother tagging along. John Shire was then asked about this and said that's all true. And he said, quote, if I knew Durant was going to go there, I probably would have looked a little harder at him. Pretty good line from John Shire about being recruited by Rick Barnes, who now he'll coach against in the second round on Saturday.
Isn't that a low line when you see the matchup right now? Based on where Tennessee is seated and viewed from the public stance versus Duke coming into the tournament?
Yeah, Vegas,
I
though,
feel that way.
Vegas has all this season really valued Tennessee heavy because of their defense, because they can muddy games
up. And it started at 2.5. It's now 3.5.
Yeah, I just think Duke is playing so great, and they can score in so many different ways. With Tennessee, you're kind of, when you're looking at scoring, it's, you hope guys are hitting deep threes, or something's going on. It's kind of like North Carolina a year ago hitting those tough shots.
Yeah.
We talked about with Brandon Wright. I think Tennessee's going to have to do a lot of that tomorrow to win. They're capable. They've got guys. Josiah Jordan-James can get hot from three. Certainly Vescovi's capable of knocking down some threes. The big thing with Tennessee from last night, they survived in advance. They got nothing from their seniors. Nothing. Vescovi hit 1 3. He had 3 points. That's their leading scorer in a senior. Got in foul trouble early. Josiah Jordan-James did very little. Jemai Mashak, the sophomore, carried them, I thought, in parts of that game. So, look, that's a negative for that game. That's a positive moving forward. If you can get anything from those guys or what you should, maybe you're going to have a better chance to beat good teams.
Yeah, maybe you can lock in and go on a nice little run in game against the Blue Devils. Chad, we've got some final scores from earlier today, and we'll go in reverse order from the games that just went final. Marquette, they win over Vermont, so the 2 seed, Marquette, they advance 78-61 over Vermont. We have Baylor advancing as well, 74-56 the final against UC Santa Barbara. Xavier, as mentioned, they survive. They get 36 points in the second half, same as the first half. They close it out strong, 72-67. It's St. Mary's 63, VCU 51. And the game that tipped off all the action for day number 2, Michigan State wins over USC 72-62. We have 3 games in progress. And with more, here's Davey Hudson.
Thanks. The final 3 games of the early slate. This one, I know a lot of people are probably shocked if you look at the score now, but just getting the second half underway. But Iowa State is making a comeback against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh only has a 7-point lead now. They're up 32-25 over the Cyclones. If we go over, we are currently at halftime for the other 11-6 matchup where NC State trails Creighton 28-26. And then the other one, guys, you were mentioning Rick Pitino earlier. Well, right now they're just about to hit the under 12 in the first half. Iona up 19-17 over the 4th-seeded UConn Huskies.
Still to come, Purdue and Fairleigh Dickinson, followed by Kentucky and Providence. That will tip off the evening slate at 6:10. And we will see the Wildcats under some pressure after being bounced a year ago by St. Peter's.
If you're looking for that bracket-busting scenario, I think it's old Ricky P. and Iona over UConn, because that's a team I think a lot of people will have going relatively far.
And so the winner of Iona-UConn takes on St. Mary's.
Yep.
And then Kansas and Arkansas will play tomorrow, and they'll advance in that bracket. So then you'll have St. Mary's and Iona or UConn taking on Kansas or Arkansas moving forward. You're right there. And then just looking around some of the brackets, Chad, Michigan State and Marquette, that's a matchup coming up on Sunday. Let's see. Memphis is still to play. I'm really intrigued by the Memphis Tigers and what Penny Hardaway can do. And can they go on a nice run where they're going to be facing Purdue coming up tomorrow?
Yeah, and you got some really good games tonight. I think Kentucky-Providence has a chance to be really good. Miami-Drake, popular 12/5 upset pick with Drake and Miami coming up tonight. Some really good games still left on the slate.
And Miami-Drake will take on Indiana and Kent State, I believe, the winner of that game.
Yes, that is correct. Indiana-Kent State tonight also. Some really good games. The second-round games that we're already seeing, Duke and Tennessee is going to be in one of those exclusive windows. at 2:40 Eastern Time on CBS, where there's no other game that starts while it's going on. The other exclusive window game is the early game, and I'm trying to find who that's with.
San Diego State and Furman.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
on CBS.
I knew it was a game where I was thinking, man, that's odd that they went with those two teams in that exclusive window, but they went with the two underdogs.
So
not San Diego State not being an underdog, but Furman being a big-time story.
So the slate early tomorrow, San Diego State, Furman at 12:10. You have Tennessee and Duke at 2:40. Kansas and Arkansas in the night slate at 5:15. And then you start to see the mix and match with all the different networks. So what I just mentioned was on CBS. Then you start to pair off and go TNT, TBS, and CBS. Missouri, Princeton, Houston, Auburn, Texas, Penn State, UCLA, Northwestern, and Alabama and Maryland. Alabama, Maryland is the final game of the night. That game is on TBS at 9:40. The nightcap for day 3 of the tournament for the right to go to the Sweet 16.
And look, they've got Princeton in front of them, who just knocked off Arizona, so not going to be easy. But what a first year for Dennis Gates. He's got Princeton in the way between him and the Sweet 16. In year number 1 in Missouri, a program that's not had any recent success.
And I think the underrated game, and you pointed this out, Chad, and I started thinking about it, you're right. Auburn comes into this tournament as a 9 seed. And if you think about where they were preseason, with the expectation in the SEC, with Bruce Pearl, they're a win away over Houston, and they're very capable.
Well,
they're
banged up Houston.
Yeah, right. And they're capable of winning the game from going to the Sweet 16. And Pearl salvages this season with really no expectation going into the tournament, honestly. They needed to win late to get in. They did. But now they have the chance to take out the number 1 seed in front of them. And it's a favorable after that.
Yeah, you can play. You can only play who's in front of you. Very, very fortunate.
After that,
to get a number 1 seed that's this damaged.
They're getting Drake or Indiana, and just looking ahead, Pitt or possibly Texas or Penn State.
Yes, I'll also say it's going to take an otherworldly performance for them to truly string that many wins together. For this reason, they're not a good three-point shooting team. Unlike a lot of Bruce Pearl teams, this is not a great three-point shooting team. They got hot last night against Iowa for a long stretch in the second half. Iowa, they were down 17, I think, and went on a run and made it interesting late. But that is not a great three-point shooting team. So I think they can beat Houston. I don't know that they're going to continue to win after that.
I'm intrigued by Arkansas, too, with 2 lottery picks on the roster. If it's just based on sheer talent, watch out as Arkansas takes on Kansas.
I saw someone pose the question last night watching Iowa that was interesting. They said, is there any school in football and men's basketball that have 2 coaches that are just good enough to never really question whether or not they should be fired? But I think the way the question was posed was, but are also the worst hangs in the world. Like, these are 2 programs that are just not great hangs when you watch them. You don't love them at any time, but they're good enough to skate by, to make some tournaments, but
good
not
enough
win
to
the
make
tournament,
you feel good.
To win 8 games, in the Big Ten, but not really go bigger
Good enough
than
to
that.
let you know it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, and just what do you want at Iowa, right? Like, is it ever going to be let's take the next step or
no? I don't think it will be.
I don't either. I think those guys are lifers. Certainly, Kirk Ferentz is a lifer, but. Anyway, that's one question that was posed last night that really had me thinking about watching Iowa lose to Auburn.
Who would be number 2 on that list? Would it be something like, well, there's no other lifers really in college football other than, and if you start thinking about the teams that win, I mean, there's no debate that it would be Saban and Dabo, right? You think about the guys who have been there for a while. Not to that level where it's consistent, but just not consistent enough.
But, I mean, you think of Iowa, you think, pretty good basketball program. That there's certainly that has kind of a brand to it. In 13 years under Fran, they've not gone to a Sweet 16. So, think about that. Not one. They've been bounced in the first or second round every year he's been there. Not every year they're going to the tournament, but when they've been to the tournament.
NC State now takes the lead over Creighton. It's by 5, 37-32 with 16 minutes remaining in the second half. UConn now back up on Iona, 23-19, 9 minutes remaining in the first half. And it's Pitt over Iowa State by 11, 36-25. That game about 5 minutes into the second half. Chad, just glancing at the free agent moves, of course, Geno Smith is staying in Seattle. We know Carolina has moved up to the number 1 overall pick. And, you've got a lot of movement, but is it great movement? Probably not. Taking a look at the NFC quarterbacks and how things shake up. At the top of the conference, Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones, and Jalen Hurts. And we should mention Jalen Hurts first, honestly, in this list, followed by Sam Howell, who currently is the starter. They have also signed Jacoby Brissett in Washington. Out of the NFC South, Desmond Ridder, Andy Dalton, Derek Carr, and Baker Mayfield. You've got the NFC West with Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford, Brock Purdy, and Geno Smith. And then the North, Justin Fields, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, and Kirk Cousins. Now, comparing that to the AFC, that will eventually add Aaron Rodgers to the pack of quarterbacks that include Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Herbert, and others. Tua. There are the haves and the have-nots. And, man, it is a treacherous path out of the AFC compared to the quarterbacks that you have to face on a regular basis in the NFC.
I'm just trying to even order this. So put that graphic back up on
it's
the
just
screen.
an order of
No, I
division.
understand that. I'm saying mentally I'm trying to order myself and get to, when you get to 5, how bad it is.
Okay.
So Jalen Hurts is 1 to me. Matthew Stafford's 2. Injury-wise, you don't know where he is right now, but he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback that can get the job done.
Yeah, okay. If you're telling me he's healthy to start week 1, yes, he's 2.
I mean, I think it's either Dak Prescott or Kirk Cousins next on the list. Kirk Cousins is the most disrespected quarterback based on stats in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
You put his stats up against Lamar Jackson, for instance. He dominates him. But everyone just says, well, he's got Justin Jefferson, right? He's the one who benefits the most from the receiver that he has. Not that I think Kirk Cousins is elite or anything.
I know, yeah.
But he's probably top 3 or 4 in the NFC. In terms of quarterbacks on this list.
So you say it's Dak Prescott or Kirk Cousins. I'm taking Prescott ahead of him.
Let's just say of the I'm going to say a top 4 in any order. Jalen Hurts was 1 to me, but Hurts, Stafford, Cousins, Prescott.
See, I think, and then Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr would be just around the same area.
And then
as
how
Prescott.
do you order Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones? Because then after that, I think you go down. Jared Goff had a good year, but Jared Goff's probably in that discussion. Yeah.
Daniel and Jared Goff has actually played in a Super Bowl.
I just think after 4, maybe 5.
Where's Geno Smith in this?
It gets really tough.
Geno Smith is making $53 million in 2023. 53
I will be
million.
convinced Geno Smith is not a one-hit wonder when he makes his second hit. Let's put it that way.
Seattle is trying to bridge one more year with this.
If he does it again, he's top 5 on this list. If he doesn't, again, I will be convinced he is a one-hit wonder until album number 2 comes out and he's got a banger on it.
So right now in San Francisco, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, and Brock Purdy. And you have the 7th-round pick.
Brock Purdy's 6th on this list right now.
I know. Justin Fields. Justin Fields. He owns the individual record for rushing for a quarterback.
It's bad. It's bad. If you are in the AFC and you're wanting to avoid competition and you're a quarterback, you want to go into the NFC right now. That's what we're telling you. With this list, with these faces, you're wanting to go to that conference and away from the AFC, if given the chance.
But also think about the movement we could see in the draft. We're going to see Carolina take a quarterback, but then the others that are being mentioned right now are in the AFC. Houston, Indianapolis, possibly Las Vegas. Who else could move up? Tampa Bay could certainly use a nice boost. Baker Mayfield signed there, but he signed there because he has a chance to compete for a starting role in week 1. Beyond that, tough to say as far as quarterbacks and in the draft where you have NFC teams that would be on the move. I don't know why, based on this, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, why you have not tried in a more strategic manner than what they've done. They've gone heavy on the offensive line. They needed to do that in free agency. They've done a nice job in free agency, but they didn't go after Lamar Jackson, and I'm stunned by that, honestly, Chad. Based on the offense that Arthur Smith runs, they bring in Jonnu Smith. They already have Kyle Pitts. They have weapons on the outside with London and others at wide receiver, and you have a chance to at least make a bid on a former MVP from 2019 who has no blemishes off the field. A year and a half after, you were all in on Deshaun Watson. Stunned by that. And especially when you compare it to the list that they're looking at, where quarterbacks matter. And right now, there aren't many good ones in the NFC.
You know, it's really stunning that the Mets lost their closer to a celebration in the World Baseball Classic.
I mean, this is it. It does. I know. I know it was celebration after the celebration after after the victory. Celebration or not, this is the reason why we're not going to see great pitching from the MLB.
I don't think you should see great players in it. I mean, look, if I'm a Major League Baseball, I'm glad that players want to participate for their countries, okay? I'm never going to hold that against the player. Olympics, World Baseball Classic, whatever.
Yeah.
But if I am the club, I don't want a single guy participating in this. And I point to this right here. Edwin Diaz celebrating a strikeout to end the game, and he tears his patellar tendon in doing so. And is going to be lost for a significant amount of time after signing the richest contract ever for a closer.
5 years, $102 million.
Now they're insured. I think it's $18.3 million this year he's due to make. And I saw that with Major League Baseball insurance, because of this injury, the Mets will get that money back.
Think about the
even though he's being paid
on this roster, the $500 million roster.
It's a lot. You're paying a high premium.
Chances are they've got a player that can be okay in the closing role. May not be Diaz, but they have a payroll that would be able to find that.
It's just crazy. I mean, it's just to watch that injury, and I've watched it over and over again. I've seen the spotlight close up of when his leg gives out and how he tries to walk and then can't put any pressure on it. And I'm thinking, this is exactly why clubs will never want their guys playing in anything. And if I'm paying a guy $102 million, I want him sitting in bubble wrap other than whatever workout is approved by the club throughout the year. I mean, I don't want you doing anything. I don't want you playing pickup basketball with your 9-year-old kid in the backyard. We've seen plenty of examples of crazy baseball injuries that aren't baseball related. Sammy Sosa sneezed and tore something in his back. At one
threw
point,
out his back or
we
something.
had pitchers that were missing time because they were playing with their kids, and they had a dislocated kneecap doing so. We've had all these crazy things. I don't want you doing anything but sitting on a couch and working out when and how I tell you to work out for the season.
Sit there like Bartolo Colon would sit there.
And that's it. Yeah, I want you getting fat. No, I don't want that. Not the Bartolo Colon plan.
Okay.
But more of like the Justin Verlander plan, right? I want more of that.
Yeah. Coming up, Chad, what are the Cinderellas? Already is Furman. They'll be playing tomorrow, and we have the star from round one coming up. JP Pegues hit the three. He joins us next on Outkick 360.
Arizona gives Corbin Carroll, 22-year-old Corbin Carroll, he of all 115 Major League plate appearances, a 8-year, $111 million deal. All guaranteed. Club has, I think, a 9th-year option for $23 million or something like that. But and Bill, we were talking earlier. This is the fusion, or this is where old school baseball and sabermetrics meet, and I think they butt heads. Because in my mind, this is sabermetrician saying, okay, all of his other numbers, all of his underlying numbers from college and the minor leagues tell us that he's going to be this $100 million player, so we're going to save some money and sign him. Whereas the old school guys would be like, hey, you know what? Give me a year or two of production, and then we'll take care of you. I just think that there's obviously as a player, who wouldn't love it? But as a team, no chance. No chance, given the physical nature of the game, given the challenge of the schedule, and the human factor. I mean, how is he going to handle a slump in the big leagues? How's he going to handle the 14-day East Coast road trips? I mean, there's just so many things. I believe this is one of those guys that almost, I feel like Chipper Jones or Alex Rodriguez, when you see him, he's a can't miss. And I believe he is, but I don't believe to the tune of $111 million. So, I mean, I'm curious, as a fan of a team, Is this something that excites you or something that worries you?
It worries me a great deal because, as you're saying, and it doesn't matter to me what the GM was thinking, but basically he's saying, I know this kid's going to be great.
Right.
And if all of a sudden he levels off and is a 240 hitter who's stealing a couple bases and doesn't have major league power, you're stuck with $111 million over the next 8 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a very, I don't want to say very common, but you're seeing this over the last 5 years more than you've ever seen it in the history of the game combined. It just never happened. I mean, you know, guys like Soto and Machado and all these young guys who got good deals young or bigger deals young. I don't know. I mean, listen, it's not my money. So as a fan, you shouldn't care. Although, is this a guy? I think the answer is yes. This is a centerpiece, right? This is a guy that you plan to have in the middle of your lineup, in the middle of your defense. Obviously, I'm assuming he's going to bring some stuff in the clubhouse as well. But this is a sign of modern baseball, for all it's worth, for whatever you want to take that for. It's a different game.
The other thing, Kurt, that you said, and you've said this in earlier podcasts, but this is the first time these kids are on fields where they're not the best player on the field.
Right.
Everybody else is as good as you.
Right.
Well,
and this is a contract where the Diamondbacks are saying this kid will continue to be the best player on the field. Right. And I guess if you're looking for the 5-tool guy, this is it, right? I mean, you're talking about a 25 homer, 300 hitting, 400 on base percentage, 50 steal, Gold Glove caliber, you know. And if that's the player, which, you know, God bless him if he is, if that's the player, then it turns out to be a great deal. J.P. Pegues with the 3 with 2.4 seconds left. It lifts Furman over Virginia, and it gave Furman their first NCAA tournament victory since 1974. And we have our Cinderella story. Outkick 360's been behind Furman. We put it on paper. We've got them in the Sweet 16. They play for the right to go to the Sweet 16 coming up tomorrow. And J.P. Pegues joins us on Outkick 360 from Orlando. J.P., thank you for the time, man. Congrats. And what's it feel like?
Man, thank you guys for having me. It feels absolutely amazing. A dream come true, something that I've been thinking about and only dreaming about since I was a kid, literally like 8 years old almost. That's probably the latest time that I first started like thinking that, you know, basketball would be something serious for me. And this was only a dream. I'm just glad to be living in it.
JP, it's amazing because I remember being a little kid and we had a basketball hoop in our front yard. And watching March Madness and seeing a shot like that, and you'd go outside and start practicing that shot. You'd be counted down your head. And, in your head, you might have Kevin Harlan calling that shot the way you actually had it. And to know that now that play that we just heard with Kevin Harlan on the play-by-play, that's going to be played for years to come. It's a national thing that you're going to see in montages of future tournaments. But in terms of Furman lore, this is your school. J.P. Pegues is now the guy who hit the shot that buried Virginia. Have you let that sink in yet about what this means for Furman?
Man, I'll tell you what, probably for the first 12 to 15 hours, I was numb to the whole fact. I was just still trying to take it in. I never thought that, for me personally to be considered in something this big. But just after, having some time to celebrate with my team, with the coaches, with the family, all the Furman supporters, I'm finally taking it in. It's a surreal moment for me, and it's a surreal moment for Furman. So.
We're based out of Nashville here, where we're in our studio right now. You played at Hillsborough High School, just a few miles down the road from our high school. I called a game of yours on television where you went head-to-head with Brandon Miller, who's now a star at Alabama. The decision to go to Furman, I remember calling your game, and you were very competitive in that game. And I'm thinking, here we have Brandon Miller, who's maybe the number one recruit in the country, and this kid that's playing with him is going toe-to-toe and having a great game. He's going to Furman. Little did we know Furman was going to be a Cinderella story a couple years later. But why Furman when you were looking around and getting offers at a high school in Nashville?
Honestly, I chose Furman because Furman was one of those places that was different from the rest. Just the culture of it. They treated you like family. They made sure I was a priority. And they told me coming in that, I was going to have a chance to be a part of something special. And it eventually worked out for me. The coaching staff was terrific. The players, they were very welcoming as soon as I got on the campus. And, to have a chance to make some history for the program, that was basketball.
J.P. Pegues, our guest on Outkick 360, he hit the three that sends Furman to the next round over Virginia. They'll take on San Diego State coming up in tomorrow. Curious here, JP, what's the phone been like? How many text messages did you have by the time you got back to the locker room? And since then, what have the teammates said? What's the family said to you?
Oh man, honestly, I'll say especially right after the game, my phone was going so crazy that I didn't even have the mental capacity to check it. It was more than I've ever seen. So. But I will say that I more so favored just staying in the moment, not even being on my phone, just celebrating with, the Furman family, my personal family. This is a big accomplishment for both. My family was super excited for me. My teammates were super excited. We were all excited because at the end of the day, I did make the shot, but Furman's moving on and making more history in the round of 32 for a chance to go to Sweet 16. And I'm super proud of this team, myself, everything. And this is definitely like a special occasion for us. And hopefully, it'll be something to be coming on more often in the future.
You weren't hitting many prior to that shot, were you, in that game?
Yeah. I was, I believe it was a stat that actually came out. Before that three, I had missed my last 15 three-pointers. Before that, which is absolutely crazy.
That's
but
nuts.
I think that's just that's just another case that shows my confidence and how much I believe in myself and how much I believe in this team.
I read a story at The Athletic this morning. Your goal was to make 1,000 threes a day when you first got to Furman. Did I read that correctly? That sounded like a misprint when I saw make 1,000 threes
or make
a day.
Yeah, it was definitely make 1,000 threes coming in. I definitely wanted to set a tone for myself coming in my freshman year, set a tone for the guys. I want to show the guys and the coaching staff and the program that this is something that I'm really serious about, and that I want to be able to come on this team and make an impact and almost immediately if possible. We had two elite guards ahead of me, 2 fifth years. I didn't even know if I was going to play or how much I was going to play, but I just wanted to prove to the program that, I'm here, that I'm for Furman, and I'm ready to make some history with you guys.
So take us through that final sequence, because we're watching it here live, and when Clark throws the ball up, we're thinking, does he think that there's 2 seconds on the clock and he's trying to just let the clock go and run it out and throw it in the air?
Yeah.
What was your vantage point of that play? Take us through everything defensively to where you guys quickly transition into offense and you bury that 3.
Yeah, so I know they had a somewhat of a dead ball situation. They had to take it out. We were in full press mode. We knew we had to get some type of a steal or we were gonna have to foul. So I think Beekman ended up catching it on the wing and he threw it right back to Clark, who was kind of in like the coffin corner, we like to call it. So me and Alex Williams, we tried to get a good trap, and we could see it was kind of really, really frustrating him. So I seen him lean back, and then out of nowhere, he just flung it with one arm into the air. And I didn't know who he was throwing it to, or I didn't see anything behind me, so I didn't really see what was going on. But when I turned around, I seen Garrett Heem jumping up in the air for the pass. And as soon as I seen him about to catch it, I'm like, yeah, we got a chance. So I started immediately kind of showing my hand for the ball. Garrett found me, and then the rest is history.
You guys averaged 27 attempts per game, maybe more now after yesterday's matchup. Describe the offense at Furman and the overall idea behind taking as many threes as you can.
Yeah, so credit to Coach Richie. He has a really great offensive scheme for us. It's a very it's the type of offense where it kind of gives us the freedom to be the type of versatile players that we are. Freedom through movement, through moving the ball, kind of creating shots for others. That's what we like to do here, just unselfishly. But doing that, it allows us to get the amount of threes that we get, or the amount of wide open layups off cuts that we get. We're a very unselfish team, and we just want to make plays for one another. And that's kind of what leads to some of the great shots that we get.
So tell us about San Diego State. I know it's a quick, preparation and scout for your next opponent when you win in the NCAA tournament. What do you know about the Aztecs? What are you expecting to see tomorrow in this game?
The Aztecs, they're a very, very good team. We got to see just a bit yesterday when they played College of Charleston. But what we do know is that it's going to be a very physical game. They're a very physical team. They got size. They got skill. They got guys. They go to the glass relentlessly. And, they got some really good playmakers. They can shoot it. They can drive it. They're a really downhill team. So I think just overall, it'll be a very physical. It'll be a 40-minute fight. I think it'll be a really good game between the two mid-majors.
JP McGee has been our guest. There had to be a moment where you went to bed last night and you're laying there before you went to sleep and think, is this a dream? Did that just happen? As you reset, there's got to be an energy drain to this too, I would imagine. And you're trying to, stay level for tomorrow's matchup.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, we got the best trainers in the country and Justin Gaines and Coach Matt. So those guys will have us ready for tomorrow. We're just making sure that we're mentally prepared, and they'll help us do the rest physically.
You've been watching all the games today in the room there in Orlando. What's been the time frame like? What's the schedule like now?
It's for as far as the games. I mean, we've just been watching all day. I think that's about winning yesterday. In my opinion, is that we won, but we also get to take a day to just enjoy it and flip the page, and also get to watch all the other teams play. In my opinion, I think the NCAA tournament is one of the greatest events in the world. I mean, so many people watch it. People literally reschedule trips for this moment. But just getting to enjoy and watch the game, that's something that's been good for me.
Amen, JP.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for I know you got a lot of texts, but thank you for answering mine and getting back with us and doing this. This is a real treat, especially for everyone back in your hometown of Nashville. Congratulations on all the success. Best of luck tomorrow.
Man, thank you guys. I couldn't pass up talking to my guys from the hometown.
That's right. Thank
No
you
doubt,
so
man.
much,
Thank
JP.
you.
Appreciate you.
JP McGee there.
He's a legend now.
The great moment. And here's the thing, Chad. Like, we'll follow them as long as they can make this run. But that play is going to be shown every round throughout the tournament.
Yeah, he's like I said, legendary status. And anyone who went to Furman ever is going to remember his name because that's the game. You know, they haven't been in a long time. 1980, 43 years.
Yeah, over 40 years. Yeah.
Yeah, 40. I think it was 80. So 43 years, and now to hit that shot, he is a legend in not just Furman basketball, but Furman University, and it's one that we'll remember nationally for a long time.
Great kid as well.
Yeah,
just a sophomore there at Furman. Marquette beats Vermont today, 78-61. Baylor over UC Santa Barbara, 74-56. Xavier holds out against Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State led the vast majority of this game, 72-67 the final. Xavier over Kennesaw State. St. Mary's advances over VCU, 63-51. Michigan State tipped things off today with a 10-point win over USC. We have 3 games right now in progress. With more, here's Davey Hudson.
Thanks, Hut. Yeah, the one that we thought we were getting some action coming back. We might have a good game. Pittsburgh is finally pulling away from Iowa State. They're up 44-30. We're about 5 minutes left to go in the second half on that one. Another game in action, closing just under 8 in the second half. NC State is down to Creighton, 56-47. And then the one that everyone's going to be keeping their eye on. Maybe we have another Cinderella story with Iona currently leading UConn 39-37 at the half.
And that game has been crazy. I mean, a high-scoring affair, a back and forth that came down to the end of the half where Iona has a 2-point lead currently.
Rick Pitino is on his way out to another job, helping to put another coach in the hot seat in Dan Hurley if they lose this game against Iona. So doing a little bit of work on both ends, right? Getting out of Iona to the job that he wants, and then maybe clearing some space at UConn if this game does not go well. Still a long way to go, though, but a good one so far, and I think one that we kind of expected between these two.
Yeah. Chad, did you see the story with the Monday Night Football crew? Stories at Outkick. They're whining about Troy Aikman flying in a private jet and not really hanging out with the crew whenever he's actually there for Monday Night Football most recently. Why would this surprise anyone is what I'm thinking with this. Like, this would be this is what I would expect. Did John Gruden hang out with a bunch of people whenever he was on the road with Monday Night Football?
No,
I didn't get the sense he did that.
So was it? I'm trying to think. Was it Gruden? Was the No, it was Witten. Who all's been on Monday Night Football recently? I'm just trying to imagine who the crew would say. Like, man, the last guys we had were so much nicer than Troy Aikman because he always hung out with us.
But Joe Buck and Aikman have it now. You know, it's just I don't.
But I'm saying who was the Monday Night Football crew before?
The final crew, I'm not sure.
Tessitore?
They had Riddick. Or Riddick, sorry, Louis Riddick.
Yeah, Louis Riddick was in the booth. That's right.
And who was doing it with him?
Greasy.
Okay. I guess those
Was it
guys
also
were
Steve Levy?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
Steve Levy took over for Tessitore.
So those guys
right.
just nicer to hang out with. They didn't mention Joe Buck as being someone who didn't hang out with him.
Joe Buck on Thursday Night Football, whenever Fox did the game, he flew in on Thursday. Like, there was a point where that literally there was it was nearing a kickoff time for the Tennessee Titans matchup, probably against Jacksonville. I can't remember, but that would have been the game. Jacksonville on Thursday Night Football. Maybe it was Pittsburgh. Cold game, traffic nightmare in Nashville, and he's flying in a couple of hours before the game on that Thursday, and traffic's so backed up they weren't sure if he was going to make kickoff. Legitimately, he did. They had the police escort for him. But yeah, I mean, this is no surprise to me. I don't understand why this is awful announcing, and they're getting this legitimately. But I don't understand why, if you're on the crew, why you expect Troy Aikman to be beer buddies with you on a Saturday or Sunday night.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that it's a surprise. I guess more than anything else.
I don't know if people are surprised.
They're clearly reacting.
Pissed.
Yeah, they're clearly reacting because I'm guessing that whoever was there before was just much more open to hanging out with the crew. But I mean,
they had a strong debut, I thought, in season 1 for them.
Oh, of
they
course.
carried over exactly what they did. It was so much better than the last couple of years on ESPN.
It was so much better than Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit, I thought, in their debut on Prime Video.
Yeah,
I thought it was fun.
Yeah, so I mean, the private jet. I think that would be a necessity, quite frankly. Herbstreit has that.
Well, I mean, does he expect them to get on a Southwest flight with the whole crew? Should he fly into the city where the crew's flying out of?
Again, it's just.
Will you come meet us in Connecticut, in Bristol, and we're going to go to the airport together, and then we're going to hop on the same American Airlines flight to Minneapolis to go to the Vikings game or wherever we're going that Monday night? It's an odd thing to complain about.
Agreed. James Franklin says that Aaron Donald has ruined college football for the position of Aaron Donald because Aaron Donald is 6'1", plays light, and now all the players are trying to play light, and it's not working out so well for the interior defensive line that need to be 300 plus in order to make, the progressions necessary to be dominant on the interior defensive line against the O-line in the Big Ten. He goes, I'm a huge Aaron Donald fan. I can hear Jimmy Frank doing this right now, Chad. Yep. I'm a huge Aaron Donald fan, but Aaron Donald has hurt college football and defensive tackles, in my opinion. Every single one of these kids think they're Aaron Donald. Well, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to be more athletic. There's been one Aaron Donald in 50 years at his size to be as disruptive as he is and as strong and as quick and as explosive. The problem is everyone thinks they're the exception instead of just putting on weight and hitting the weight room.
It's an interesting theory with him. I mean, look, if you're the coach, you can tell guys what you want in your program. It's like, hey, you need to put on 25 pounds. You need to do this. Like you're sort of in control of that. You don't have to just let them, no, I'm going to go lose 30 pounds and be Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
And the coach says, well, you're not Aaron Donald. No, I'm going to be Aaron Donald. No, you're not. I mean, the coach has to overrule at some point. So it's on the coaches. It's on James Franklin in the end. But I think just the money is a factor. Like if you have a kid who's a good athlete and he's bigger, I mean, if I'm looking at the finances of the league and I'm thinking, should I be some run-stuffing 3-4 nose tackle that's never going to make as much as a guy who can get to the passer on the interior? Or should I lose some weight, get quicker, get faster, hone those skills, and be someone who's going to make a ton more being Jeffrey Simmons, Aaron Donald? I know they're different sizes, but
no doubt they are.
Someone who's more athletic that can get to the passer too, right? That can affect the game that way. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a great athlete, why would you not want to play quarterback?
Well,
I understand that you're going to get play somewhere and you might have a better skill set to be a receiver, but if you're so good of an athlete that you could do multiple things and play multiple positions, if you were just in it for the money and what's going to be the most lucrative, be a quarterback.
Aaron Donald.
It's like I say, play baseball if you're a kid.
He's listed 6'1", 280. And that's what James Franklin say. He wants people to look at Jeffrey Simmons, who's 6'4", 305, and is as athletic as he is.
Right.
And Aaron Donald is 6'1", 280, and he's less than that probably, is dominating the NFL and is getting the highest money that we've seen at the position, at least before Nick Bosa signs his new deal. Chad, Dana Holgorsen had a great quote about his buyout. He was asked by The Athletic if he was on the hot seat, how he's felt this offseason at Houston.
Yep.
The quote from, it's the state of college football. The quote is, we've won 20 games in 2 years. We won bowl games in back-to-back years. I have 5 years on my contract with an effing impossible buyout. So there ain't no effing hot seat in my mind. There just ain't. That from Dana Holgorsen.
I love when you bring in the buyout.
Yeah. I have a contract with an impossible buyout.
You just, most coaches would sort of take the high road and just say, no, I feel a lot of support here from my athletic director and president. And you could point out the record. Hey, we won 20 games in 2 years, and I don't feel like I'm on the hot seat. But Dana Holgorsen, who's been known to chug about 23 Red Bulls a day, takes it up a notch and says, no, the buyout's impossible. So good luck firing me. You're going to pay me a lot of money with that buyout. I love it.
Creighton and NC State coming down to the wire. We've got live score reactions for you next on Outkick 360.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation. And pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into Outkick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
So the higher that number can be, the better you are with the committee. It's really that simple.
You got to lean into the turns. You really got to lean into the turns.
He's got incredible taste in which media figures he listens to.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
Why are we going through Melania's goods? Don't make Brittany Griner out to be some type freedom fighter. Shouldn't there be a little bit of common sense? Let's roll 'em, big boy. What do you got?
They want to find someone to be the face of domestic terrorism, and they want it to be a right-wing Trump supporter. Don't let them entrap you into doing something dumb. But they were hyper-rational. They looked at the data, and they said it makes no sense for me to submit to this COVID shot mandate.
Get the shot or you can't go to your brother's wedding. Get the shot or you can't go to your daughter's graduation. Get the shot or else.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of the Southern Legend.
Outkick 360, wrapping up what's been a fun week. We've got scores for you. CBS and Turner announced this is the most watched first opening round on a Thursday for them in 8 years. 8.4 million throughout the day yesterday in the tournament. Some great games right now coming down to the wire. We've got live scores for you. Here's Davey Hudson.
Thanks, Hut. Yeah, Pitt, they're going to walk away with the win. A little under 2 minutes left to go in this one. They are up 56-37 over Iowa State. Just not a good shooting performance for the Cyclones today. Another 11-6 matchup. NC State is down by 6 to Creighton, 67-61. Right under 2 minutes to go in that one as well. And then we're still at the half for Iona, leading UConn 39-37.
Chad, we're betting the board on all these games, and so far so good today. Not bad.
It's been a good day.
We're also betting the half with
You've done
Dockage.
well, Hutton. Good job.
Hey, we got yours coming up. You have Fairleigh Dickinson under 155.5 points. I'm riding that with you. Kentucky, Chad's high on the Wildcats. I hope he's right here. -4.5.
The more
Providence.
you say that Chad is high on the Wildcats, the less high I am on the Wildcats.
No one right now feels
it's
very
going
high
into my skull. The more
on the
I hear it,
Wildcats.
the less high I am on them.
Tonight, Drake money line, Grand Canyon and Gonzaga under 155.5. Memphis -1.5 against FAU, a team that won 31 games. Kansas State to win by 11 to 15 points. I love that bet. And Indiana -4.5, followed by Arizona State's money line in their matchup later against TCU. We also got games for tomorrow that we have. We're also going to bet every game, by the way, in this bracket. We're starting with San Diego State and Furman, and we're taking the under 137. And Duke -3.5. We're backing Duke in this on our picks for Outkick.com/bet against Tennessee. Give us the money line against Arkansas and the money line for Auburn. We're backing the two SEC matchups against the 1 seeds, Kansas and Houston. Missouri and Princeton, +6.5. This is going to be a tight game. Texas and Penn State, take the over. UCLA and Northwestern tomorrow night, -7.5. And give us Bama minus the points. Bama's the best team. They have the best player. They have a lot of distractions, and guess what? It just doesn't matter. -8.5 against the Maryland Terrapins.
I probably had the hardest time in that Missouri-Princeton game, deciding what to do on that pick. And I went with that because I do think it's going to be close. But two teams that shoot a lot of threes, it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a fun weekend regardless. And like you said, most watched first day of the tournament in 8 years. Not bad. It's one of those, it feels like almost every year it's the next year's the most watched.
Yeah.
That it goes up. But hearing most watched in 8 years, really good.
On Monday, I think we're talking about Furman and Memphis for what they do this weekend. Which team would you go with?
I think we're talking about multiple number 1 seeds no longer being in the tournament.
Bama's still there.
Bama's still there.
But we're still talking about them.
Houston is not.
Okay.
And one other will go down this weekend.
Hopefully Kansas, based on our bets.
I think that's a smart bet. That's a smart bet.
Either way, we're recapping all the action. We'll have the Sweet 16 set. Outkick 360. We start at 3 o'clock Eastern, Monday, right here on the Outkick Network.